So do you think that...
Sorry, okay, I'm gonna, you know what, actually you are gonna weak ban, okay? I'm banning for these types of comments, okay? I'm not gonna gaslight on this. I worry that while Destiny may be correct here, this is also coincidentally playing exactly into anti-fans' attempts to widen the divide. Pisco has shown he won't change his mind on this. This like weird gaslighting tactic of like, anytime Destiny responds to anybody who disagrees with them, it's actually manipulation, and it's actually abusive, and it's actually, you know, weaponizing his community. Bullshit, get the fuck out. I'm perma-banning any more comments I see like this, okay? It is an incredibly like weird and borderline creepy way, because there's a whole bunch of other weird accusations thrown into this, that anytime I respond to somebody that disagrees with me, I'm somehow doing something wrong. But all of these people can all, in the most unhinged, coordinated manner possible, okay, all of them can work together to do like the most crazy anti-Destiny. You get the fuck out. If you believe that, then leave and go to some other community, or go to those communities if you want. Like the level of like the level of like coordination and the level of like, yeah, of like coordinated like agitprop or whatever the fuck you would call it against me is like unhinged, okay? Apparently this was fucking Hasan's stream a little bit ago.
Some lawyer guy named something that I found very interesting.
Also, did he just say some lawyer guy? Like Hasan doesn't obsessively follow all of the lore around me? Bro, Hasan dropped lore bombs about me? I had no clue that this motherfucker was so obsessed with my life. Holy shit.
Something that I found very interesting. I guess there's like a dude out there. Remember the guy who like Sex Pesting was like debating, duking out in the marketplace of ideas? He's some lawyer guy named Pisco or something. And remember when I was talking about that? Well, apparently his community actually did something that's quite interesting. Instead of behaving like Destiny orbiters normally do, which is just like fucking lie about my positions and then design an entire narrative off of this falsehood that they've created around.
Remember, he says this constantly while he literally watches like a Twitter and a TikTok account called Tiny vs. Tiny, which is like just an amalgamation of like 500 clips from like the past 15 years of my life, right? Hasan will never watch in totality any of the content that I do. It's always these like pre-made clip channels, okay? I'm watching long-form content from all of these degenerate fucks, all right?
Which is just like fucking lie about my positions and then design.
But then, and then there's also, remember, okay, of this like, oh, now he escaped the plantation because Destiny enforces ideological heterogeneity amongst all of his friends. Keep in mind that they also inhabit both these positions. I force every single person who's around me to have the same ideas as me, but I also make friends with people like Nick Fuentes and Myron Gaines, even though they're fascists and I'm supposedly not a fascist. Like, it's so fucking stupid. Like, you think there's more ideological conformity around like my friend groups, or my old friend groups, I guess, post me being a rapist? Is there more ideological conformity among my friend groups or among fucking Hasan's friend groups? Like, give me a break.
And then design an entire narrative off of this falsehood that they've created around a position that I do not hold. They actually went back to the original. Okay, they actually went back to the original fucking content and assessed it without Destiny filtering it. Okay, and I thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to see if I can find it real quick. There's like, yeah, no, it's specifically about me and my advocacy for re-education camps, which is not even a thing that I have said. You know, it's not even a thing that I've advocated for, but I found it quite interesting because I don't really look at the other side. I don't really broach into the dark side of the internet frequently. But it was interesting seeing people basically go back and be like, hey, I don't really like Hasan. I'm a liberal, but I've realized that a lot of these other like liberal content creators have just been straight up lying about Hasan's positions, which is like, yeah, that's exactly what's been going on in perpetuity.
Also, that ever since you called out the way Snark, KF, Juice Stalker, Anti-Fan work as a network to execute their plan of TDD, total Destiny death online, showing one of them trying to spread poison narrative, specifically not saying it's a specific reflection of Pisco's community on the primary point that there really seems to be a conspiracy to fuck with you. I don't understand the sentence. I don't think this comes from Pisco's community. I just think he's getting like sucked up into it or whatever. I don't think any of the live and learn guys are like a close part of this. They're just getting, they're just kind of being like weaponized by all of it. Although I will say, probably one of the most insanely fucking weird things was Pisco dropping the white blood cell comment about me. That was like incredibly fucking weird. I don't know. Like that's a Mr. Girl term that got co-opted by a little bit by Kiwi Farms and then a little bit by Just Duels community. I have no clue. What does that mean? So a long time ago, so despite what people think or whatever, again, this is why there are no fucking DMs of me that have ever leaked to me being like an actual fucking rapist manipulator person. Most of my DMs, I'm usually being an ooh fucking loser or soy as fuck or whatever. Like, oh, I hope I'm not manipulating you, queen. The reason why is I actually do try to be like very mindful of, I do try to be very, very, very mindful of the influence that I have over other people. Like constantly, I don't know if I ever leaked that one DM I had sent to Lonerbox, but even after the Israel trip to Lonerbox, because I noticed sometimes he fights with my community and things, like I send him a message like, hey, you don't feel any pressure because of, you know, whatever trip we went on or whatever. Like obviously I'm always cool arguing with shit because I think we're having some disagreements over Israel. I always try to be like very mindful of this stuff. But the and same thing with like Connor too. Like I have these conversations with people. Mr. Girl tried to, but despite all of that, also this is why I'm going to lean a little bit more into covering this shit, because I have to. It's cringe as it is, because nobody wants to talk about any of the issues. They just want to talk about this weird high school like drama shit. One of the things that Mr. Girl used to accuse me of is when Mr. Girl and Lav would come out, two of the creepiest, weirdest, like rapist, fucking insane people of all time would make an accusation against me. Obviously, other people in my community, because remember, Mr. Girl and Lav are universally fucking hated on the internet by everybody. They do everything they can to be as hated as possible. But when any of my friends or orbiters, whatever, would hate them, they would say, oh, here come the white blood cells. So the white blood cell term is something that Mr. Girl and Max popularized to describe any time anybody in my community would shit on Max or Lav for saying something unhinged. But that, yeah. So I've just, the fact that Pisco wheeled that out as an insult, I thought it was an incredibly, especially to call Connor a white blood cell. It's so disappointing. Fuck, I don't know how Pisco, I don't know how he got to this point. It's especially fucking weird because Connor is a Republican. Like, I think that even came up in the debate where Connor mentioned something about how, like, I would hate, like, these two things equally, or I would hate something more, or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And Pisco was trying to use that as to prove a point. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure Connor would hate that. He's a fucking Republican. We don't agree on this. I would expect Connor to agree with everything. He's a conservative. I'm not a conservative. But the idea that Connor would be a white blood cell for me, like, it doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I don't know. That's a wild claim.
Been straight up lying about Hasan's positions, which is like, yeah, that's exactly what's been going on in perpetuity, pretty much for every single thing. One of the ways in which people do that is when they take something that I've said that is a joke and act as though I'm saying it sincerely. That's obviously a classic version of this. But what's crazy about it? Oh my God, they deleted it. You shouldn't trust DGG with how to interpret Hasan's ideology. Re-education camps as an example. Wait, what the fuck? Why did he delete it?
Oh, the account. I wonder if the guy deleted the account. Oh, I fucked up. I wonder if there was worse stuff that the guy had posted in his history and I didn't go back and look at it. And I wonder if he deleted the account so I couldn't track it. The guy deleted his account. I'm retarded. I should have looked at that off stream first. Fuck. Oh, fuck. I wonder what posts I missed. Wait, if anybody backed that account up, can you email that to me? He was posting in Mr. Girl's return sub. Oh, shit. Yeah. He deleted it. So he deleted his account when I covered on stream. Interesting, huh? Doesn't this prove what you were arguing in real time? Pisco literally is being used by tankies after sweeping for them. It's literally happening. Yes. Like last night, bro, watching. You can always tell, if you're ever curious, like, how did Destiny do in his debate today, and you couldn't catch the debate, the easiest way to tell is to either check my Kiwi Farms thread, I'm sorry, let me be like the commentary communities, the place that must not be named, or check like an anti-fan stream, and you can immediately tell how my debate went. Because like if you turn on a stream and they're like, oh my God, yeah, did you see the Destiny debate earlier? Like, whoo, he got raped, it was crazy. It's like, yeah, then it might have been a rough debate for me. But if you turn it on, and they're like, I can't believe Destiny was trying to wheel on his argument. You should have seen it. He did something so hard. It was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't even believe it. It's like, ooh, I probably raped whoever the fuck I was talking to. Bro, the funniest moment last night was watching Gistigal try to do, I wish I'd saved the timestamp of this. It was watching Gistigal try to do a soy voice for somebody. And his soy voice, because he was so fucking mad about the debate, when he switched to his normal voice after, it was the exact same fucking voice. He was like, so like he's copying me. He's like, oh, so I think that all these people should be able to do this, and I think that everybody's a communist, even though I can't be proof for it. This is the type of stuff that Destiny says, guys. Like, I can't believe it. It's like the same fucking voice. It's so fucking funny, but I don't have a timestamp. But he spent like 6 hours yesterday with Straight Raid, with Aaron in the chat, donating along, and all the other haters there donating along and watching or whatever. But funny, good times. Fuck, I wish I had the timestamp for that.
Wait, what the fuck? Why did he delete it?
Yeah, and Queeman and Doobie. Is Kelly there? Kelly is not there. Kelly kind of got ejected from the community over the Cherry stuff, because Cherry, whenever she has her little BPD outbreaks, she starts shitting on everybody. Kelly didn't appreciate the fact that Cherry was shitting on her like crazy when Justical wouldn't defend Kelly at all, and Justical would give cover for Cherry shitting on Kelly, when Kelly was kind of like one of the only reasons that Justical stream was able to stay afloat for as long as it did. Kelly was an active contributor to the Discord, and Kelly would go on to Justical stream for free for a long time to kind of support it. And then as soon as Cherry came back from whatever BPD, forcible commitment breakout or whatever she was having, she had her unhinged moments against Kelly. Justical basically let them stand. If Kelly ever fought back, then he would ban Kelly from the server. And so and he was paying Cherry the entire time while Cherry was on the stream, but not Kelly. So Kelly eventually just peaced out. She was like, fuck this.
Wait, this was like a long effort post that I was going to go through. Deleted because too much context. Context is not allowed. The account got deleted? Wait, what the fuck? How is it? What? Bro, this shit was there. This shit was there this morning.
Crazy that they would oh, that is true too. I wasn't gonna get all that, but yeah. Someone in Kick Chat said it wasn't just the cherry stuff, Destiny. It's that Kelly complained about Aaron coming into the community and back on the scene without saying any comment about you or her part in the Pixie stuff. True.
The account being deleted shouldn't delete the post. Yeah, what? Bro, this has 39 upvotes, dude. It doesn't make any sense why anyone would get so mad at it that they would brigade it to that degree where they would just like make the account delete the post and then delete the fucking account itself. Like, what are these guys doing?
I love how he phrased that. Like, we made the account, the Snarker account, we forced it to delete itself because we read the post on stream? What?
How is it? What? Bro, this shit was there. This shit was there this morning. The account being deleted shouldn't delete the post. Yeah, what? Bro, this has 39 upvotes, dude. It doesn't make any sense why anyone would get so mad at it that they would brigade it to that degree where they would just like make the account delete the post and then delete the fucking account itself. Like, what are these guys doing?
Another gross thing about the white blood cell thing is that it's just flat out taking the agency from the people around you. Like, it's impossible to them that someone might have a differing opinion that happens to agree with you without it being accused of running cover for you. It's hive mind shit. It actually is. It was also sad too because like Pisco kept screaming like Pisco kept screaming yesterday that Connor was just there to run cover for me. Okay, one, do you not think that Connor, the fucking conservative guy, might legitimately disagree with you cozying up to commies? Maybe. Number one. Number two, who brought Connor for cover? Was it me? How many times have you heard me say, man, I hated this one-on-one debate. I wish it could have been 2-on-2 instead. How many times have you heard me on screen be like, fuck, I need to stop doing 2-on-2 debates. I should just do one-on-2. I should have 1-on-3. I love it when it's just me against everybody. I love when I get to do it. Right? Why would I bring somebody on to do cover me? Or three, are you accusing Wick of providing cover for me? Did Wick bring on Connor points to provide cover for me? Like, it's such a cringe, weird loser statement to make. Like, why? Like, why would you even say that? Pisco knows a lot about the law. Went to a good law school. He worked as a lawyer. Like, I think he's got like a good mind for debate, for understanding things or whatever. I guess I didn't realize as much. Although to be fair, I spent like weird time online, like debating Nazis and debating like commies and shit. So like I know like a lot of the weird dog whistles. Like when somebody says something about like we need to protect like our European stock, like I instantly know like, oh, okay. So when you say European stock, like we're on some neo-Nazi shit. Like I know 100% you're a neo-Nazi. Just the fact that you even use that phrase, like our European stock or heritage or whatever. Like as soon as you say shit, like I know, okay, yeah. And there's like a lot of like weird, or like when somebody talks like, oh, like we need to be more revolutionary. Basically any association with the word revolution, and an online argument is like, okay, you're a commie. Like okay, let's do it. Pisco didn't know 3 days ago. I'm pretty confident in this. I don't know if anybody has a link to the VOD. People didn't know what a Marxist-Leninist was, which is like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but if you're going to venture into this part of the internet and start to like try to stand so strong and firm on a lot of these arguments, it's very strange to do that while having incredibly limited background knowledge on any of the subject matter, right? When somebody says white terror and your go-to is, oh, you think they were like hate crimes or racially motivated things, that's like, how are you going to sit here and try to like make incredibly strong arguments on this when you're like so not, I don't know, that's just, I feel like it was a little bit weird to me. I see the link, thank you, okay. Did he really say that? If somebody can, I don't know if anybody has a timestamp to that, but somebody used the term Marxist-Leninist and then Pisco was like, wait, so are you saying that he was a Marxist or are you saying that he was like a Leninist? It was like, wait a second, do you not know what that term means? Somebody can find the link to that. Hold on, let me use our restroom, 1 second. Why do you think Hasan is trying to involve himself directly in this drama? Like he made 30K of his viewers watch the Queeman video and read r/Pisco post for an hour, providing decently detailed commentary. What is the benefit for him here? Is he actually trying to destroy your career? It's about building a coalition. It's unironically, it's the thing that I say that Republicans do really well. Your media apparatus has to be centered around pushing the exact same message at every single level. So if Kiwi Farms is attacking me, whatever their message is, will get to Gisticle server because they'll amplify it directly. Sometimes they just even post posts on there. And then that will make its way around to all of the peripheral Discord servers. That will filter out into like the adversary streams, like smaller ones, or it'll be picked up directly by Bad Empanada. And then that will be amplified by Hasan Piker. And then that information will be used to bolster people that are against me and then to attack people that are with me, basically. And that's like the whole play. So Hasan watching Pisco stuff here signals to Pisco that like, as long as you continue to fight with Destiny, there's a huge reward here for you. I'm going to cover you favorably with my audience. Hopefully Kiwi Farms and everybody else isn't like doxing you. And then, you know, like your shit is going to be like pretty chill. Just make sure you don't fuck up and go back. Right. That's the whole point of that.
Can you infer what Hasan's positions might be based on the things he supports and statements he's had about other subjects? Or do you need him to tell you, oh, I want this system in America specifically? Or can you also take his statements on systems in other countries, or also statements about his strategy? Because previously he said that his objective is to be a gateway to Marxist-Leninists.
He said Marxist-Leninists?
Yeah, to the deprogram guys, to their he said that he's a pipeline.
Sorry, I'm asking something specific. So you think that are there statements of Hasan supporting Lenin?
Almost definitely. Like
you're not sure, right? As you sit here, you're not sure. No, I'm just asking. As you sit here right now, you're unsure, correct?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
I've watched Hasan enough, and I've seen him definitely support one party rule in China. I've seen him support one party rule in Cuba. I'm pretty sure he supported the USSR for various things.
So he supported the government. He thought the Soviet Union was based, and he thought that the Castro was based, and the Chinese Communist Party is based.
In terms of like his like that question of like, so did he support Lenin to be like a Marxist Leninist? That's a very, very, very surprising thing. So 4 days ago, he didn't know what that term was, which isn't like bad in and of itself. Like it just depends on where you're at. Like Josiah might not know that term because I think when I look at Josiah and the stuff that he does, Josiah is like very much like I cover real world politics and like all the political stuff in the U.S. And that's not a term you're ever going to hear in ordinary American news, and you probably wouldn't even hear it in alternative media that much. But if you want to dive into this world and have these arguments, that's just a wild thing. Especially to try to like start to quiz somebody on, but we didn't get into Hasan's beliefs much because both of them tried to, or both of them said pretty clearly they didn't support Hasan at all. Which I mean is fine, I guess. It's like that's okay. I don't like this. Starts to sound a little schizo, but like I do believe that people will. If I were to ask you something like, "Oh, would you support Nick Fuentes?" I don't feel like Econoboy would post. This wouldn't be the best tactic for me because I don't, nor have I ever, had a generally positive view of Nick Fuentes. And I'm sure I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Nick Fuentes. Like all of the criticism for these people is quite soft, I would say. This is a fairly soft statement, which just makes me wonder. Later on, I think in the same thing, fuck, I got whatever. I have the quote. I've never said Hasan is an ally to the Democratic Party. I don't think he is. I only think his platform is a useful tool for Democrats to use if they want. Like, it's just, my issue is just that I can't tell. It's very, very, very hard for me to tell, like, how extreme are you willing to accept from a side that says that they want to topple your entire like organization of society. I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't feel like I got much clarity. Like it seems like Hasan is a bridge too far, But then it seems like they only would side with people like Bernie and AOC and Mamdani. That's what they brought up over and over again. But you don't even have to appeal to socialists to appeal to either of those three people. So I truly don't know. I just don't know, actually. I don't know what the answer is to these. We didn't really get into this as much. This part of the debate I was shocked at. I was also really happy, though, that it came up. Sometimes PCO does this thing. I'm not going to call this bad faith, per se. But I feel like if I'm arguing with somebody and I'm bringing up like a subject matter specific term, I'll usually try to explain it to the best that I understand it so that the other person, now if I'm already happy to explain a term, the other person's probably already kind of fucked in the argument, but I'll try. So I'm not like just burying you, with like random jargon or, esoteric language that you're not familiar with for the debate. But I'll notice sometimes like Hasan will, or not Hasan, sorry, fuck, in my brain. I just read this, Hasan lied about times interrogated. That Pisco will like whip out these like legal terms in an attempt to kind of like obfuscate or like mind fuck the other side because they don't know how to answer the thing. The fact that I brought up the TSA incident, and I wanted to clarify, like, we're talking about a content neutral thing, not whether or not we're necessarily viewpoint neutral. There was no viewpoint discrimination that we can point to for Hasan's stuff, although Pisco kind of agreed, and he said, well, content neutrality is not okay as well. And also, but then he also defended the viewpoint neutral thing by saying, well, if Bernie Sanders would have been the one he made the threat to, I don't think he would have gotten his global entry revoked, which I don't know how we can ever prove that. But when Pisco tried to wheel out that, like, don't you know that this gets a strict scrutiny analysis? And it's like, okay, hold on, Mr. Lawyer Buddy. And I think he knew he fucked up, because I asked, well, what are the two things when it comes to strict scrutiny, right? And he knew it, and he had to answer. It's like, well, we need a narrowly tailored law, and it has to be a compelling state interest, right? Because he tried to bring up the driver's license thing, and I'm like, bro, banning somebody from driving a car, that is not narrowly tailored at all. And what is the compelling state interest in banning somebody from even owning a car, as opposed to the compelling state interest of not expediting somebody's security screening versus just like banning somebody from having an expedited security screening process coming back in from the country from international, right? It's such an obviously. I guess I was happy this came up, but I was surprised that like it feels like he spent like 10 days doing a victory march over this TSA thing, and then he like abandoned this argument in like 4 minutes when we started hashing it out. But Jesus. Okay. This was my outline for this, but we didn't really get through any of this. $644.54. Was it this? What are you talking about? I removed the last L in his name. Was it this? Just remove the last L in his name. Oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to find. I don't want to play the wrong part because it's going to seem like I lied about it. 644.54.
The way that Econoboy is. But I do know what people mean when they say socialism in this country.
644.54.
I don't know with him. Well, maybe, but do you believe that Muslims, would be at a higher propensity to commit Islamic terrorism? And Desi said, I don't know.
No, it's not. He was way more unhinged. This was like hours earlier. He was like screaming through his like early like 2-hour coverage of this. Did you already address him soying out and calling you dipshit and saying answer the question bitch over and over? Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Oh, okay, sorry. So we can get to now that I'm going over that, my outline, I guess. I got a really, really, really good email 2 days ago that I'm super grateful for because it informed heavily the way that I approached this conversation. Because my plan was actually also, I was just going to come into this conversation like fucking guns blazing. Because I was like, okay, well, we're going to get the quotes, we're going to scream over the quotes, and we're going to like hammer out like exactly what was going on. My whole subreddit wanted that as well. And then I got a really good email from a guy. The title was "Why Your Orbiters Anti-Fan So Hard." I'm not going to read the whole email, but one of the things he explains is that like one thing that can be kind of frustrating arguing against me is that when there was a meme joke on my fucking subreddit that actually encapsulated this that had to do with Naruto, but I don't know any Naruto anime, so I don't know how accurate it is or not. But that when I'm talking with people and we're like friends or friendly, like the conversation is like very, very collaborative. Like I'm doing a lot to build out their arguments. Hopefully we're like not screaming at each other. There's not like a lot of ego on the line for these conversations. But then when these people are used to having like this type of conversation with me, if there's like kind of an anti-fan moment and they're like getting gassed up by their community to believe that I'm like a fucking retard and I don't know what I'm talking about. And then they come back for like a second conversation. The second conversation, if I'm not like working really, really hard to help workshop their argument, that conversation is going to feel really, really, really brutal. I'm not trying to be like a fucking self-dick suck or whatever, but like I can have a really good collaborative conversation with somebody if I want. I'm also a very good debater. I'm not a retard, okay? What's more, I shouldn't even phrase it like it's not that I'm not a retard. I'm the best debater in the world. Let's be honest, okay? There's a reason why all these fucking losers dodge the fuck out of me and just sit in their communities all day and talk to themselves, okay? It's because they know that we have a conversation, all right? It's going to be banned on YouTube and uploaded to Pornhub because it's going to be that fucking one-sided, all right? Let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest. But that sometimes people might have like a visceral reaction after conversations because of that feeling of like, wait, this guy who when I wrestled with my boyfriend, I thought it was a lot closer than it actually was. But now that he did this thing, I realized like how powerless I am. That's the feeling. You know, I'm like 20% joking there. But as a result, anyway, after I got that email, I thought about that a lot, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come into this conversation like a cool cucumber. Okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to be happy and jovial. I'm going to chill. Okay, and then we'll just like follow the conversation where it goes. I don't know why. I do know why. Pisco came into that conversation so fucking heated. Holy shit.
We need...
What is this? Oh, re-education camps?
Dude, we need re-education camps. Like, I'm just saying it again and again and again. And people always think like, oh, Hasan, you commie bastard. Like, Hasan, you commie bastard. Like, when you say re-education camps, like, well, you mean like, you know, gulags or whatever. And it's like, no, I don't mean like gulags, okay? But we need to open the schools and we need to force people to go back to school, okay? No more homeschooling. You have to go to like real school, okay? You can't do fake school. This is unacceptable. This is completely unacceptable. If you think this is cool...
Okay. Fuck. I didn't say... See, if I was Vosh, I would prepare for my segments. There were like 3 different points yesterday where... How quick did you realize that Pisco was heated? Well, I realized it right at the beginning of the debate because his opening statement got a little bit... I felt like it got a little bit personal. I'd have to go back and listen to it, but it seems like he was like already... He started off like accusing me of being bad faith, I think. Or he accused it all of being like a personal vendetta or something. But the preceding nights were also... him literally saying like, I'm going to go hard on this. I'm going to go in and we're going to really nail this down. We're really going to figure this out. We're really going to, it's like, holy shit. Okay. Well, in that case, I'll just let him lead. And then, yeah, I got called, I don't know when the last time was, I got called a sped. What? When he called me, I was like, wait, what the fuck? I thought he was gonna call me a faggot. I was like, holy shit, Pisco, calm the fuck down. Yeah, he called me a bitch like 10 times. Like, bro, are you okay right now? Like, what are we doing right now? Like, holy shit. It was like, Jesus, we're like on some wild shit right now. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was like, yeah, it was just like super mega insanely fucking. Oh yeah, and he kept calling Connor a vandal over and over again. I'm like, what? Why? Yeah, I don't know. I was like, that was very funny to me. Oh, and then he pulled out that stop the heteronormative language. I don't even know where that came from after using bitch like 20 times, but... Yeah. Okay, fuck. Am I gonna watch this? Oh man, I would rewatch the debate. I will implement this in the future. I need to rewatch my debates and pick out. I just need somebody to pick out moments, I guess, for me to rewatch so that I can like sharpen stuff. Because I think there was a couple of things that there's always places where I can sharpen my stuff. I didn't like I've gone back and forth because I'm trying to think. I've gone back and forth on this. When I got hit with the socialist versus communist question, after I answered it in the debate, I kind of felt like, does communists have a more negative connotation than socialists? I mean, like, it kind of does, but does it? Then I'm trying to think like, and then I think after the debate, I was like, communist probably has quite a bit of a more negative connotation than socialist, maybe. But then I tried to think like, well, let me think of the application. Like, what was their example? They were like, would Mamdani have won if he called himself a communist? And I said in the debate, I'm not really sure. And it sounds like a ridiculous proposition. But then I thought later, I thought about this morning. I'm like, well, hold on. The fact that Mamdani won at all is actually kind of insane, right? Like if you were to go back 6 months ago and say, do you think that a Muslim guy who identifies as a socialist, who talks about globalized intifada is going to win the Democratic primary in New York? Everybody would have said no to that, right? So like, is that crazy to think that if he would have said, like if communists would have been part of his platform, that he would have lost? I don't know. I feel like that's actually hard to say. I'm not sure. Yeah, I would say like the vast majority of Americans don't actually see some huge distinction between communist and socialist. The only thing I would say is that communist carries a much more negative connotation, maybe because of the use. Like people don't use commie much, but socialist has kind of been normalized in everybody. But yeah, I don't know. I went back and I thought about that. I was like, I'm not sure. Mamdani is a communist.
Conviction. And what I mean by that is that the many things that we believe, some of them are already popular in this moment right now, right? If we're talking about the cancellation of student debt, if we're talking about Medicare for all, these are issues which have the groundswell of popular support across this country. But then there are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment. And what I want to say is that it is critical that in the way that we organize, in the way that we set up our work, and our priorities, that we do not leave any one issue for the other, that we do not meet a moment and only look at what...
Was that supposed to be the communist part? I mean, seizing the means of production is also socialist. Like, communism is supposed to be like the next... When you talk about like what it's supposed to be, you can't, like, it really, all these words mean a ton of different things. Like, this is part of my issue. Like, when Econo Boy is saying like, well, actually, all these things can be socialism. Like, he's actually kind of right. But then... It's also like, well, that's kind of part of the problem because there's a lot of people that are coming in calling themselves socialists that aren't really socialists. They're just like liberals. But then like, are all of our best liberals going to be socialist? But then what about the people that are coming in calling themselves SOCDEMs that actually are like super like MLs, like what Hasan says he does? And then I don't like the idea that, they asked me, like, what do you think a socialist or communist is or whatever? And I'm pointing to, like, well, who are the large figures today that identify as socialist or communist? And I'm not allowed to point out anybody in the media sphere because they're saying, well, those people don't count. And it's like, okay, well, these are your leading voices. And they're like, what about AOC and Bernie Sanders? Like, well, these are democratically elected politicians, right? Their navigation is going to be much different because of the fact they have to remain electorally popular. I don't know if I would look to them as thought leaders. Also, when I point out like the DSA literally doesn't even endorse AOC, and they're like, well, the DSA doesn't count. Really? The Democratic Socialists of America, the largest, I'm pretty sure, socialist organization in the US doesn't count, and none of your large media figures count? And then it's like, well, what about the Communist Manifesto, like written in the 1800s? That does count? Wait, what? Like, I don't know. I felt all of that was like really wacky, I think. But also, we never got to talk any substance in this debate. We never got to talk substance in this debate, but like this is part of my problem, is that there's such a lack of clarity on what any of these words even fucking mean, that like it allows people to sneak into your movement. And I think that's not good. I found it. It's at 122.06. How could you even know what I'm watching?
He won't.
It depends. There are some socialists who would say that there are no socialist countries. There are other socialists that would point to.
Actually, you pretend you don't understand what these things mean, and you should take my mind reading of Hasan Piker as like as the word of God, and yeah, that's what the whole conversation is about. You don't take my word as the word of God.
Most socialists would say there isn't any
much the same that if I was on a podcast and a conservative. That's not what I was looking for. Don't worry, you're not going to find it. Okay, don't worry about it. All right. Okay, somebody link me this Cato survey. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable view of communism? And this is unfavorable is 86%, and the one for socialism, the unfavorable is 57%. So that's quite a big difference, like a 30-point difference. I don't know, maybe it would make a big difference. I don't know, not sure. Somewhat favorable. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's kind of spread out. Oh, fuck. That was actually like, I even brought that up. I should have asked Wick to enforce that. So somebody says, do you like how fast DGG found the Aaron clips? Maybe, but also like, I wish I could have had more time to like vet out that argument, because like, you've heard me say this a million times in debates, where like, I'll hedge immediately and I'll be like, okay, I know this isn't like fair and I don't expect you to be able to do this right off the bat, but like, could you give me an example? Like, do you have like a link or a clip or a source for this? Because I'm just curious. Like, I'll always give people that grace because, like, I don't expect you to have fucking source, like in the middle of the debate. I never expect people to have that. The fact that we stumbled onto a topic that wasn't like part of the pre-planned list of topics, and people are like, give me a source. I need a clip. I need you to link me a clip. I need you to link me a clip. Okay, I'm saying, explicit this. It's like, dude, I don't even know that we were gonna fuck. What do you want to do? Like, look right now through the 7,000 hours of videos that are like of her on my stream and everything else. And they're like, how am I supposed to find this? Like on the fly. And despite the fact that he asked that, I feel like people in chat found a lot of clips, and there's like, well, actually, that doesn't count, and that doesn't count, and then it's like, okay, Jesus Christ. Jesus.
Can I talk to you?
Okay.
Like, okay, so I'm heading to this restaurant.
Don't care.
Remember the guy who like sex pested anyone?
Oh, this was the whole clip from his stream. We'll see if
Look at everything.
I don't know if I even have time
Doing
to
the
watch
same thing with health insurance.
Oh, this was so cringe. I wonder if I should have stuck up for Connor more in this debate. I had to be careful because I don't want my position with Connor. I don't have the same position as him because Connor is a conservative, although we're largely aligned on a lot of stuff here.
Food, water, and shelter available to human beings at the point of service for free.
So you think so? Why is that socialist, but doing the same thing with health insurance isn't? And it's because one is basic human needs.
Because I'm going based on because I'm going off of the fucking definitions of shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so healthcare is not a basic human need, but food is.
All you're arguing is that healthcare is.
I'm asking a question. I'm actually asking you a question. Is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
So like the first question is kind of different than the second question. Pisco has a lot of trouble clarifying his questions though, and he gets into trouble here, right? The first question is food a basic need and is healthcare a basic need? Sorry if this sounds unpopular, chat. I don't mean to be an asshole or whatever, but healthcare is not a basic need, okay? Food is a basic need. If you don't have food, you will die. 100, not 99% of the time, not 99.9% of the time, 100% of the time. You will die in about 30 days if you don't have food, okay? Full stop. Healthcare, believe it or not, a lot of people through a lot of human history have lived with zero healthcare. Women gave birth, no epidural, no fucking, what do you call them? Wives. The people that help deliver babies, like childhood mortality was really high. A lot of women died. But for the most part, we actually survived for a lot of human history with no healthcare, okay? To try to say that, midwives, that's it. To try to say that healthcare is like is like a basic necessity in the same way that food is a basic, no. Like food and water and probably shelter, food and water, shelter, maybe clothing, food, water, shelter, clothing are gonna be here. Healthcare is gonna be on a higher, like a higher thing, like one or two things higher. Not to say that it's not really important to have access to healthcare, but.
Question, is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
But then he does this, is food more of a human need than healthcare? Well, yeah, of course, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right, so I think that's cooked. But
you can see, like, and Pisco got obsessed with this. I don't know if this is like the final stage of evolution where because at one point, like Pisco and me had an argument, not an argument, but like Pisco was saying when we were on the same team that it's important to force concessions out of people so that you're actually like making progress in the conversation, which I agree, and I'm not good at that all the time, right? Yeah, you should force a concession. But this like obsession with trying to get gotchas on everything, trying to get gotchas on everything here is like, bro, like chill. What the fuck?
Care is as you're seeing it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think that's cooked. I think that's fucking cooked and arbitrary. I don't
Hold
think
on,
you
wait,
can
wait,
point
wait. I gotta ask because this is bad.
Everyone
Wait. I need to know. Hold on,
Not
wait.
everybody needs
Pisco,
healthcare. What
do you
the
think
fuck
that
are you
healthcare
talking
is
about?
as important as food?
No, I think food is more important than healthcare.
Okay, so you agreed with Connor. So he just said the same thing that Connor said, but Pisco lost track of his argument because he was being imprecise with his words. I think that and actually, I didn't catch this the first time. I only caught the last chain of what was being argued. But now I see what happened was Pisco said one thing, but then he said a second thing, and that lack of precision elicited an answer from Connor that Pisco thought was different than it actually was. Pisco thought that Connor was saying that healthcare and food are both not basic necessities, which I would actually argue are basic necessities, depends. But that wasn't the question that Pisco asked, and that wasn't the one that Connor responded to. I don't know why you just said Connor was cooked.
No. Wait. You're cooked in that I would consider, I think most people consider in basic human necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more
You
important.
asked him which was more. So Pisco should just say here, but again, he's so, like, I think the ego is huge in this, okay? He so cannot concede or back off a single fucking point, okay? Where Pisco, like, can't just say, like, oh, then I misspoke, sorry. Or I was unclear, or I was imprecise, or I misspoke. He can't do it. And it's like, bro.
In necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more
You
important. You
asked him which was more important, didn't you? Did I miss that? Hold on, wait. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm appealing to the moderator. Did he ask which one was more important, or did he say we're both important?
He asked which is more important.
Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized Connor's point there. You did.
I said,
You did.
Is it more in the sense of is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate?
But then notice what Pisco does, and this is where you can see the bad faith. Oh my God! Actually, this is such a great clip. Notice what Pisco does. Pisco goes on to defend the misspeak, not realizing, I think, that he misspoke, because what Pisco should just say here is, oh, no, wait, I'm so sorry. My first question was, are both of these in the category of basic human rights? Okay, sorry, I misspoke on the second one, right? That's what he should say, and then it's over. You're done with it.
Oh, no.
You did. But then he goes on to defend the word more and tries to make it work in the framework.
Is it more in the sense of is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate category of thing, that there are separate categories that food is a basic human necessity in a way that
you don't need to cope. You can just
hold on. Also, it doesn't. Hold on. Wait. Just to be clear, because you're trying to bail yourself out. It doesn't make sense what you just said. Is something more of this in a category, or is it just in the category? Those are two.
No, it makes sense.
Is a fourth. So then I don't even realize this. That Pisco's first question was, are these things both in the category? But he misspoke the second time and asked if something was more than the other thing, and now he's trying to defend the misspeak. Focus more of a car than a Honda Civic is a car. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Destiny.
No, he tried against Connor. He fucked up. He realized what he said was fucking retarded. And now he's trying to wipe out the word game. That's what's happening right now. It's a word game.
This is all weaselness.
It is weaselness. We agree with that. We all get it.
So when you say the word a basic human necessity, all right, a basic human necessity, in what respect is food a basic human necessity? With respect to healthcare is not. And I'm trying to see what are the metrics by which you assess.
Hasan, my best faith advocate. Somebody said he's watching an old debate of mine. I'm like, really? He's watching an old debate? He's not. He's looking at a tweet from a debate of mine. Halal flow. Nice. Good one. You know, if Hasan is such a crazy, well-informed person, and I'm so retarded on Israel-Palestine, we can always have that debate, little bro. If you ever want to talk about Israel-Palestine, because you think you're so well-informed on the area, I've covered this for a decade, but I didn't know where Yemen was 3 years ago on a map, and I confused Turkey for India, always down for the convo.
That's healthcare to be more of a basic human necessity. Wait, stop. I'm clarifying. I'm clarifying. So just because I say something is more important, and I'm going to get Destiny with this, just because something is more important, I consider something to be more important, doesn't mean it's more of a basic human necessity, yes or no?
Who?
Steven.
Like, the word here doesn't make any sense. Do I agree with this? I wonder if I agree with this. Like, more of a, that's just why would you say more of when you're asking if it belongs to a category? It doesn't make any sense. You're turning off your words. You just said again, you said more of a basic human necessity, but when you mean to say it doesn't belong to the category of basic human necessity. Okay, good. Okay.
Wait, Steven. Is the term basic human necessity and important the same?
No.
Okay, so
is the term the same? No.
Because say something along the spectrum of basic human necessity and importance, those are different questions, right?
Debating whether or not.
Wait, Steven, are they?
Yeah, but this whole convo was so fucking wild. Holy shit. You have any interest in rebuilding the piss bridge? Would you reach out to talk to him off stream to address the ego/feelings? If somebody's gonna go super hard at me publicly, I don't usually reach out privately to discuss anything. Like, listen, I don't hold grudges against anybody. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, I'm probably gonna watch him on Tim Pool in a couple days, and I'm probably gonna think that I'm probably gonna agree with most of what he says. I'm probably gonna say he fucking owns Tim Pool. That's probably gonna be the thing it is, because I'm not an unhinged fucking hater. I'm not an unhinged fucking hater for the people I disagree with. Geez, hold on. People were saying there were conversations going on right now. This was Hutch's reaction to what?
Administration, new government.
What is this?
Okay. Boy, this is going to be...
Oh, I can't watch his whole... I'm sorry. I love Hutch, but there's no way that I don't have the time for this. I want to be careful how I say this, okay? I'm not trying to besmirch Hutch, okay? But the unfortunate reality, it's interesting that he's noticed this. I have no DMs with Hutch. Oh, I removed them all from Discord, so I can't even check. But I'm pretty sure I haven't DM'd Hutch in like 6 months, okay? So it's not like I'm telling him any of this privately, because I know these guys like to project their little scheming onto me. But this thing that Hutch is saying, unfortunately, and again, I'm not calling out Hutch or trying to be mean to Hutch, but this is like the goal, right? I didn't want to be a part of this debate because of the toxic nature of the current Destiny discourse. The most deranged people are targeting me currently because of their beef with Destiny. I have zero desire to dip my toes into any of that. This is the goal for the Gistical community, for Kiwi Farms, for all of these people, right? Is that like if you enter the arena here and you're even remotely on Destiny's side, you will get doxxed, they will harass you, they will DM you, they'll try to like swat you, they'll try to do whatever unhinged shit they can, and they will obsessively talk about you and then brigade your shit and all this. Like this is like the plan, you know? I also love that Justicle's Discord server watches me non-stop. Limeo! Hasan is watching Destiny's classic Cookie Rockets, and Destiny doesn't want to watch him react to it because he knows how embarrassing he was there. Gangsta Griffith. Maybe if Molestiny had this passion for review in his workouts, he wouldn't be a fat molested freak. Jesus Christ. Is this against Discord's TOS? It might be, might wonder there. You know, don't get your server reported. Wouldn't want to get any more of you guys perm banned from Discord, like Justicle's main account is. Is there legal recourse against these people, at least for doxing and swatting? Swatting, if you could prove it, sure, but it's always impossible to prove that. Doxing isn't technically illegal. There's nothing illegal about that. So, like, you can't do anything. There's nothing you can really do about it, yeah. I feel like it's a little unfair to judge Hutch for that. It's pretty understandable to not be wanting to be drawn into that. Don't think I said anything different at all. No clue why you're even typing that. I literally said exactly that, but thank you. Why do they call Destiny fat? Okay, I couldn't figure this out for the longest time. I did get a little chubby, but it was like 3 years ago, I think. But then I think I found out that once Kelly split from Justicle's community, it's because Justicle is overweight. And he feels bad about being overweight, apparently. This is when Kelly started typing a bunch of shit, leaking stuff about him and Cherry, and then him in general and his like mental derangement or whatever. And I think that they started the Destiny's fat thing to make Justicle feel better about being overweight. Like, I've been the same weight for like the past like year or two. It's always funny when I go on the forums, or I like look at people tweeting about me, and it'll simultaneously be like Destiny has become like a fat fucking loser, and then also Destiny's amphetamine abuse has led to the graven, hollowed out, like underweight, husk of a person he used to be. And it, like, I see these comments like back to back, and it's like, all right, well, why does it feel like you are permanently on defense? Can't you cook up some anti-Justical salvos? Well, so the issue is that, and like I said, when does this stop? They shouldn't even really be happening right now. It was just because of the that one Discord leak or whatever, and then all the Pixie bullshit is what has dragged all this up, because I really should be fully separated from these communities at this point. But the reason why it feels like I'm always on defense is because there's nothing to attack, right? Justicle's kind of a loser. Like, he's a fat random dude that quit his software engineering job in Canada to be an anti-fan online. Like, what am I going to attack, right? There's nothing to attack there. These people don't have reputations online. They'll be gone in a couple years, like all the other people that kind of mount these attacks, I'll probably still be here. I'll probably still be doing fine or better than I was before, because that seems to be how it goes. And then we all just kind of like pick up the pieces and move on with life. And that's just how it is, you know?
One sec.
Okay, apparently this was last night. I don't know if Pisco was crying after this debate or why his eyes are so red or if he smokes weed or what. I have no clue.
One sec.
Did you see Lauren Daly going after Relly? There's no shot those two are dating. That was such a weird screenshot. I can't possibly believe that they're dating. I don't know.
Almost ready to go. Filibuster.
He's using eye drops. He had an issue and he has to use it. Oh, okay.
Filibuster. Okay, and now I just do this. And all right, Dr. Avi, thank you for coming up real quick. We were about to have a phone call, and I realized it might be useful to stream our conversation because I understand you listened to at least some of the debate and you have some thoughts about it. And I
caught like 5 minutes of this at one point, and then I was has anybody seen this movie? Oh, oof, you know it's an artsy movie when it doesn't even come up on. Actually, I don't know if I can click this because there's like dicks. If you wanna feel very superior to your friends and you want a very artsy experience, what an interesting, yeah, you can call it Kino. Jeez. Not too sure how I feel about it, but
I think it's useful to talk to you to chat. So yeah, why don't we have it?
Well, I listened to the debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys needed a mod or something. Like, you needed some kind of bridge. You guys were screaming at each other and talking past each other a lot of times. I'm not sure if you guys disagreed at many points or if you were just using different semantics.
I don't know how much. Avi is generally pretty fair. I feel like he's talked to people that I've had big disagreements with, and I've generally thought he's been fair. He's talked to people I've agreed with. I think he's generally fair. I think Avi's generally pretty fair. I'm just putting that out there first before I critique what I think Abby just said here. I feel like most of the excited energy was coming from Pisco for this. Like, I was able to have calm back and forths with Econo Boy. I think Connor was calmer than Pisco, although sometimes he was a little bit explosive. But then I felt like Pisco's interactions with everybody were unhinged.
I don't think there was a lot of linearity in the discussion. I don't think you guys finished off points before like going on to something completely different. And then from there, it's the same thing, going on to different from that and that, never getting back to any resolution of any other point. And there were some points where I wonder if there were some personal undertones that were just motivating this whole thing. Because like I don't know if this whole thing was just like in the people just screaming at each other over something certain points that were so abstract. But I guess that's a different whole can of worms.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So first of all, I think I agree with a lot of your characterization. I don't think it was very linear. I think that there is, like, certainly, I will admit readily, there's hard feelings on my behalf because basically, take my approach, right? My view is that we have been unfairly smeared as like tanky adjacent in the sense of that we support tankies, that we support Marxist-Leninists, that we largely support kind of illiberal, anti-constitutional ideas. And this is...
You could say support, maybe. I think it's always a red flag. I pointed this out. What do I call this? The clown mirror. If you can never, ever, ever accurately summarize what the opposition's viewpoint is, then I think that's a red flag. Like, am I calling them tanky adjacent? That could be a reading, but at this point, obviously, I have no more good faith to extend here. Like, our complaint, and even Connor said our complaint pretty well, is that you are giving room to people who are fundamentally anti-liberal by providing kind of soft cover for them, not challenging them as hard as you could, and creating a warm, soft, inviting space for them to come in and then eventually to take over, usurp your movement, and then cast all of you out, right? That's the issue. If you want to just summarize that as being like tanky adjacent, I feel like that's not fair. I feel like that's kind of a retarded summary of my position. I feel like I can summarize his position pretty fairly. They think at the end of the day that these like online lefty deranged movements aren't really going to have that much of a downstream negative electoral impact on the Democratic Party, or at least whatever negative impact they have is going to be far outweighed by bringing them into the fold and incorporating them into our movement and then having them be active voters. And that you don't have to support all of the radical crazy ideas or all of the radical crazy figures on the left in order to appeal to the left, but you can still appeal to broad sections of the left with leftist messaging, and then you can even utilize their platforms even if you have to do it in a contentious or combative way. I feel like it's a pretty fair summary of his position. I don't like when people can never summarize like my positions, or they make me sound like a fucking retard. Like, I've been streaming for 16 years. I'm a relatively popular guy. I think I'm standing on my own in a lot of this shit. Like, the idea that I got here by just being a retarded fucking loser, not only does it bode poorly for me, or is it like improbable that that's the case, I think it also kind of makes you look like a fucking retard. Why the fuck were you friends with me or on my stream for so long, like giving cover to all of, like, if I'm such a clearly fucking retarded person, you know? Like, it's the same mentality when I like talk about exes or whatever, or when I think about like relationships with it. Like for Melina, like we had a really rough breakup, obviously, but like I think almost every time I brought up Melina over the past like several months or a year or whatever, it's generally pretty positive, right? Like I dated her for 5 years. We're married. Like, why the fuck? I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, what, she was a crazy fucking cunt the entire time. I was like, well, who the fuck am I? How fucking retarded would you have to be in a relationship with somebody who's horrible for that long, right? Yeah, I like this weird thing of like, as soon as you're not super close friends with somebody, you're not friends with somebody, you hate them. Now you have this no charitability, and they're this like bad faith, horrible, stupid piece of shit. It's like, why the fuck did you even say anything for the like past 2 years? On my stream, were you just using me for my platform? Like, I don't know. Destiny, is Econo Boy cooked? Arguing that weed legalization is a socialist policy is completely retarded. No, I don't think Econo Boy is cooked, and I understand why Econo Boy argues for the things he does. My big criticism and contention with Econo Boy is just going to be using a label that gives cover to other people that use it more maliciously. I don't think Econo Boy is like a secret tank. I don't think. I hope not. I don't think he's like a secret tanky or anything like that. And like, in a vacuum, or like if me and Econo Boy and like 5 friends were out, you know, eating and, you know, chatting up each other and like talking about political beliefs, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm like a socialist. I was like, okay, I don't know about you, but sure, I get it, right? It's just in this online context of where you have this group of people who are trying to be subversive, trying to like radicalize spaces and constantly on your political movement, that I think we should be a little bit more careful about the labels we use. That's all I'm saying, you know?
That we support Marxist-Leninists, that we largely support kind of illiberal, anti-constitutional ideas, and this has seeped in and basically infected like major parts of I take like my stream, and you know, constantly having to feel these issues of like, do you like Hasan, do you not like Hasan? So for me, there seems to be, or I'm perceiving a sense of intentionality behind it, and I am taking it personally. So you know, at that show, that is what I feel, and so I'm not lying about that. I think that there's personal stuff on his side too, that have.
You say that Pisco was very unhinged. However, don't you think that this is kind of fair from his point of view, that you spread lies about him being a socialist communist? If I did, I mean, like, I don't even know if I should hedge here. I feel like I said a million times. I've said a million times on this stream. I don't think that these guys are secret tankies or like socialists or communists, except for, I guess, Econo Boy is a socialist now. I just don't like that they give cover for them in the way that they bring them their shows. I feel like I've said this a million fucking times. Actually, you know what I think has happened? And I can't prove this at all. I just saw some messages in chat. Maybe I should go look for it. If I was more like terminally online, I would, which is funny given that I'm a fucking streamer. What I think happened actually was Pisco thought I was saying these things, the more hardcore statements, because people in Pisco's chat were saying I was saying these things. People like Aaron Straighterate, or people like Queeman, or people like Doobie were saying, oh, Destiny says you guys are socialists or communists. Destiny is saying that you guys love Hasan. I think that's probably what's happening more than anything else, if I had to guess. But I would have to go dig through for those messages. I could be wrong now, but I saw chatters in chat saying like, "Oh, these people are typing these unhinged messages about you, or whatever." Yeah.
To do with, you know, other things, other matters. But you know, I think that you're correct about that. I was frustrated by the lack of linearity, because ultimately I think that linearity would expose that there's not much substantive disagreement. That's at least my inclination. But yeah, so I don't take much issue with your characterization.
Before I go into like a specific thing, do you have any idea if he's smearing? Do you have any idea if he's being dishonest and he's smearing you, and if there's like a personal thing? Do you have an idea of like why he would do that? Like why? Like
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's this feeling, if I'm just being totally honest.
I hate this, and I don't know what breaks people's brains on this. If I ever leave online politics, I guess I'm giving you the secret code to make me rage quit. It'll be because of this. When people get outmaneuvered on the subject matter, they immediately pivot to this weird high school world of like, why do you think that Destiny, the person who's bred 2 of the worst online leftists, Vosh and Hasan, from his community, a person who has intentionally sliced off 40% of his community in the past because he found out there were so many socialists and tankies, and who is concerned about the fact that these people are engaged in rhetoric that he finds to be harmful to the party, why do you think that he is coming down on you guys now when all of these people are infesting your chats and you're starting to make nice with them? I think it's probably just personal. I think he just probably is just really mad personally. I think it's just an interpersonal thing. This is an unbelievably dishonest take. Like, either a part of your brain has been broken on me, because I guess like once you're no longer my friend, you have to be like unhinged about me. But like, there's nothing to engage with. I haven't given anything of substance to engage with on any of this. You really think the only explanation for any of this is that it's just all personal? Really? When Econo Boy said that Norway is socialized 2/3 of their wealth, that's wrong. It's a sovereign wealth fund. It's the state as a capitalist actor buying assets using oil money. It's literally capitalism. Yeah, I know. And then somebody pointed out the majority of that sovereign wealth fund's investment is in capitalist firms, which, yeah, I wish I would have known that as soon as you brought that up. But
that, like, I'm a traitor. That when I took a step away from Stephen, from the collaborations with Stephen, that was either something I should not have done, or that, you know, that it's super negative.
Also, the thing that's frustrating about him saying this is that, like, I actually do have some of these personal feelings. I do think a lot of these people, the whole, like, oh, we instantly believe the other person, you're probably a rapist, and we're gonna, I do kind of, like, feel, like, pretty bad about that. However, even if that is going to be your explainer for, like, oh, like, why is it like this? How do you explain the fact that I've covered all of these guys, Pisco, just like everybody else, like, incredibly favorably over the past, like, 6 months? I feel like, haven't we watched? I feel like I've literally watched. I offered the $10,000 because I wanted to see Pisco debate the one lawyer dude. And I'm pretty sure I've watched him on multiple shows where I'm, like, screaming. I'm like, thank God somebody who actually understands the law is here so that Pisco can shit on these guys. Like, how, like, what would it be that just now I've decided that I hate them interpersonally? Like, it doesn't even, like, logically follow from the timeline, you know?
I did that, or it's not understandable, or that I'm a bad friend because I did that. And I think that those feelings are very much sort of at issue.
You're talking about when this whole thing happened with the Pixie stuff, or with
and I'm, you know, for reasons that I still maintain, I don't, like, want to get in, like, give my take and opinion beyond what I've already said on those matters, and that, again, is out of respect to the parties, and also the fact that, like, you know, the fact that I am a lawyer and people might take, like, I think, improper weight to what I say one way or the other.
That feels like a major cop out to me, because he had no problem weighing in for weeks on Ethan Klein's lawsuit stuff, but I don't know.
Didn't think it's appropriate to speak out, and, you know, I haven't made content out of it. That, you know, again, out of respect for both parties and the role that I occupied in that kind of DNC lead up type thing, and not wanting to unduly prejudice either party. Yeah, I think that is an understandable thing for someone to do, and it feels like it leaves both sides, I guess, feeling angry that I don't have a stronger statement one way or the other, or that, like, I abandoned too quickly or something.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I'll just say, just for the record, I don't know much about the backstory. So I don't.
You typed in DGG chat earlier that Pisco spent a week or so ripping on Ethan for his lawsuit, but he literally only mentioned it in his stream once, that the filing was very silly and unprofessional, and the only reason he brought it up past this was due to my fellow DGers going on to attack him for it. I could have a totally wrong recollection about that, but I feel like I remember him debating that topic and tweeting about that topic for days. So I thought he read through one of the lawsuits. That seems like an insane retelling on that, but okay.
I can't really comment about, like, who's right or who's wrong on any of that, because I don't really know, like, what the whole Pixie situation was. I haven't really dug into that. I just know there is a situation, and I know some vague stuff about it, and I know, like, there was, like, all sorts of, like, fallout from that. So, okay, I'm just trying to get your position. So I can't really comment on, like, whether you're right or not, or whether, you know, he's right about that. But I can understand what you're saying and what he might say. And he's saying, and I could, you know, try to bridge a communication.
But either way, that, I think, officially has nothing to do with, like, what the debate proposition, to the extent there was a proposition, was.
You're saying that in terms of about, like, why
I'm speculating that there's a lot of negative feelings that don't actually have to do with my stated views at all. And I think that people, like, the notion that,
like, none of my attacks on Pisco have been personal. Like, I think even as recently as, was it 2 weeks ago? I wish I had all the VODs. Like, I think even recently as 2 weeks ago, I think I was saying something like, you guys in the subreddit are trying to say shit like Pisco isn't even a real lawyer. And I think I even literally said, I was like, bro, he went to a really good law school and he was working at a really big law firm. Like, of all the accusations you want to make about Pisco, the idea that, like, he doesn't know the law or is a shitty lawyer is, like, one of the dumbest things you could say. Like, I think I even defended him on that a couple weeks ago. I think it was a few weeks ago. So, like, it's such a cop-out. Like, this, I don't want to say it feels like snarkers against Ethan Klein, but this whole, like, I think you're just personally upset. It's like, excuse me, bro. I'm not the sped that you accuse me of being. You can try to grasp my arguments if you can. If you can't understand my arguments, then just fuck off. You're not equipped for the conversation, which is fine, but then admit that and fuck off. Don't sit here and pretend like there's this huge personal beef or vendetta that maybe you have it. Maybe you could say, oh, well, I think I'm too personally invested, which is fine. That's fair, I guess. I would respect somebody for saying it. But don't pretend like that's my problem. Like, I had no problem being, I think, incredibly fair to all of these people for months and months and months.
The kind of statements I make that people are interpreting as being pro-tanky or tanky apologists, the notion that an objectively rational person could not take, I think, my statements to indicate like an allegiance to tankism or that I'm going to like become a tanky or anything like that. I think it's absurd. But
like again, like look at how he's phrasing the argument. Like I have an allegiance to tankyism. Like I don't think I've ever made that strong of a claim. I don't think we made that claim during the debate. Like it's just okay.
That perhaps I'm speculating that this has to do with a lot with the feeling, and it's yeah.
At any point in the debate, did anyone like outline definitions or like clarity about like or concept conveyance of what exactly a tanky is?
Yeah, no, I think that it was kind of vaguely alluded to as having something to do with like violent revolution, perhaps with some understanding of like lack of rights, but that wasn't fully understood or defined. So no, I don't think that it was. I think there was a kind of shared notion that we were leaning on, which had something vaguely to do with like Marxist-Leninism.
Some sort of vaguely gestured that notion. So,
correct. Yep.
So it seems like the thing you were arguing, like, well, I don't even think you guys ultimately were arguing about that. I think you guys derailed all over the place for most of the debate.
True.
It seemed like the main thing you guys were supposed to argue about. I don't even think that it was very clearly conveyed what you were arguing about.
I agree.
There was like just sort of vague notion of what you're playing footsie with tanky, where tanky isn't really, it's sort of opaque. It's kind of like we have some notions about like some loss of rights somewhere, and some sort of like left-leaning or far left-leaning things.
What percent of Pisco right now would you say is bad faith or just genuinely upset social understanding? I don't know. It's hard to say because like if you get like really emotionally dug into it, this is the hard thing to say. You can legitimately get for 100% bad faith reasons. I don't want to say bad faith. For egotistical reasons, you could get dug into a position emotionally, and then you can legitimately argue past that point. Like I've had stuff where I've gotten like people don't understand that when you go down a bad road, you can start to make a lot of legitimate arguments down that bad road that look like really legitimate. There have been stuff like manifestos I've written in the past where I've spent like days on a certain like line or topic, like a line of thought, and I'm like, oh fuck, this fits. And then like in looking back on it, I'm like, fuck. I think my initial assumption here was wrong. And if this initial assumption is wrong, all the rest of this kind of falls apart. It doesn't actually work out as much. Like it happens, So it's hard for me to say like what percentage of it is bad faith if there's like an initial egotistical dig in and then everything past that is defending the initial proposition. I can't like percentage say that,
but not. It's still fairly blurry. It's still pretty blurry.
I think it's pretty blurry, yeah. Because I'm frustrated because I think that I'm repeating myself now, but I think that it reveals that clarity will reveal like a lack of disagreement. I started that way. Like that's my position is that like where's the disagreement? What's the prescription that we can identify over the course of that conversation? I think that the prescription has to do with like associations perhaps, or like but not even there, right? Because there was this hinting at prescriptions that maybe we shouldn't have had the Vanguard on, or if we did have them on, we should have been tonally more aggressive against the Vanguard, and that somehow that would thereby like the chat would reflect that these people, that my chat is like as opposed to what it currently is, which is Marxist Leninist, which I do not agree with that characterization, but like I think
like this all of like it's just so like to pretend that you don't understand anything I'm saying at all is just so crazy to me. Like you can't present anything I've said fairly. That's just crazy to me.
That you are correct that there were vague notions about what these terms meant. I felt it was frustrating to try to get linearization in this context, and maybe I didn't do the best job of doing that, but I was trying to stick to the same topic.
Yeah, just a quick answer because I don't know much about the Vanguard. Like, are they like just some like far left or like?
I would say that they're far left. They definitely espouse socialist idea. I mean, their name is the Vanguard, right? They're definitely like support people, but they voted for Biden, they voted for Kamala, and every time I've talked to them, they've been concerned about the authoritarianism of Donald Trump, and they've been concerned about rights violations in contexts where I take those to be like genuinely held beliefs. They are concerned about rights violations that someone who is like principally against. Now maybe they're against the rights violations only because of Trump, that they're being bad faith, but when I talk to them, it seems like they are concerned, for example, of like the deportation of Kilmar Abu Garcia. They are concerned about First Amendment issues. You and I discussed Mahmoud Khalil. Now it could be that they're only concerned about those because of the political like convenience, right? Where it's because the people that are having their rights trampled upon are politically favorable to them. You understand me? But as I've talked to the Vanguard, the fact that they're willing to acknowledge the Democrats as a lesser of two evils, the fact that they seem concerned genuinely with certain rights violations.
I don't know if this is like a time where like history can inform a little more, but like the KBD and the Nazis were 100% aligned in their fighting against the Liberal Party, against the Socialists in, is it SPD in Germany? And that was the idea. Well, we both hate the establishment. We both hate the liberals. We both hate the direction the country's going, right? That they were willing to kind of like, fuck it, we'll work together, right? But and the Soviet Union and the Nazi Germany did this, right? Like, let's just kind of be chill, right? Our little Molotov Ribbentrop or whatever. Let's just be chill and attack each other. We got like bigger problems. Like this like idea of making friends with people that are fundamentally ideologically opposed to you, like you're doing some gambit that's going to pay off in the future. It just seems so ill-informed to me.
To me, I have not gotten the impression from the Vanguard that they would fit under what I would think of as a quote-unquote tanky, even notwithstanding the fact that yes, their name is the Vanguard.
I like the come on. I don't know. I haven't gone through, like, people are linking albums and shit. Like, I haven't gone through all the Vanguard's content. To be honest, I just don't know much about them because I don't follow their shit much. But everything I've seen has made me think, like, well, that seems kind of weird. Exactly. Oh, all subsequent disappointments aside, I wonder how the people who kneecapped Bernie's 2020 campaign are feeling about now. The Vanguard, exactly. When Trump gets reelected, never forget that Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang, etc. are at fault for coalescing around and endorsing Joe Biden at the behest of Obama when Bernie clearly had the momentum after Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. This is in 2024. LeMayo, we made content every day criticizing Biden. I don't know why you keep reply guying this stupid shit. Reminder, the GOP ate shit in the midterms because they are cartoonishly evil and unappealing to normie Americans, not because the Dems are doing a good job. Biden still sucks and should be primaried from the left in 2024. Unfortunately, it's not an exaggeration called Biden's Disinformation Governance Board a ministry of truth. This is something everyone on the left should be speaking out and standing up against. This is Biden's Democratic Party. Throw up, throw up, throw up. What, like, I mean, I don't know. Whatever.
Right. You know. Okay. So if do you think that he's under the impression that he would, or do you think that
he would mean Destiny?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that he would call them pankies.
Okay. So then yeah. Okay. Another point of need for semantic analysis. To clear that up. Quick question before we go on to the one example I noticed. Did you notice any? Because one thing I did get a sense of, regardless of whether they're they fit into this category of tanky or not. One concern I definitely did hear, and I think this is like it might even be a shared concern. Probably is that there are certain characters that just seem to just bash the Democrats.
Yeah, which I don't quite understand as being the same critique. Maybe they're kind of associated with each other and they're aligned with each other. I'll let you finish what you said. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean,
what is this? Did we watch this on stream?
Representation of the truth to suggest that Donald Trump just doesn't have to abide by the checks that people like Joe Biden did. Like you mentioned the parliamentarian, and I think you're like furthering this narrative that the Republicans get everything they want when they elect Trump, and then we elect Biden, he just throws scraps at us. That's kind of the narrative that you guys push, right?
Yeah, I stand by that. I think that his entire presidency, that's why he was a one-term president. Yeah, usually if you're a really successful president, you get 2 terms. He got 1 term.
Well, let's interrogate that a little bit. You guys blamed the Senate parliamentarian for the $15 an hour minimum wage.
No, I blame Joe Biden for failing on one of his primary campaign promises to the American people, and the minimum wage in this country hasn't been raised since George Bush.
Well, what should he have done?
Fired the Senate parliamentarian.
What would that have accomplished?
There would have not been the person standing in the way of that issue. Another one would have cropped up, and I would have advised that he deal with it swiftly.
You still didn't have yes votes from either Sinema or Manchin.
I think you can deal with that if you're the president of the United States. To Pisco's point, he expected every single one of those people to fall to Trump because Donald Trump will exercise power within the Republican Party. Not everybody did. Not everybody did. You never work again. I think that Joe Biden could have done a lot more to put his thumb on the scale to get Joe Manchin.
Get into specifics. How is he going to pressure Joe Manchin?
Sure. I think we've watched a lot of this, but I think they just hate. Yeah, they just hate Democrats. Look at the chat.
Abide by the checks that people like Joe Biden did. Like you mentioned the parliamentarian, and I think you're furthering this narrative that the Republicans get everything they want when they elect Trump, and then we elect Biden.
I know, Boy, you brought on the Beavis and Butthead of meaningless commentary about YouTube progressive space drama for clicks and giggles.
He just throws scraps at us. That's kind of the narrative that you guys push, right?
Yeah, I stand by that. I think that his entire presidency, that's why he was a one-term president. Yeah, usually if you're a really successful
Biden pardoned his brother and son.
president, you get 2 terms. He got 1 term.
Well, let's interrogate that a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys blamed.
Okay, I'm not going to go through all this.
Certainly, there's an association with certainly at least appears to be association. The further on the left you kind of tread, the more that sort of thing starts sort of pops its head around, where they just bash Dems just to score bash Demming points or whatever points they think they're scoring for whatever reason. And so even regardless of whether you draw the line okay, well, tanky is here, tanky is there. I think one thing that seems a point of concern, regardless of whether they fit into the category of tanky, is look, are they in line with us in our political goals? Are they supporting? Right. At the end of the day, support us against the Republicans.
Which matters a lot to us on Live and Learn. Like that project, the quote-unquote project, matters to us. And that project, I think, is best defined by voting for Democrats and helping them win. So I understand why people could take issue with them bashing for the sake of it.
Do you think let me ask you this. Do you think he thinks that the Vanguard are those sorts of people? Regardless of their tankies or not. So he thinks that they're just basically just overly bashing Dems.
For virtue points, right? Is that what you're kind of...
Yeah, just some sort of... whatever it is that's motivating them, just overly bashing Dems more so than they earn the bashing.
I think he thinks that of them, correct?
Yeah, and you do not share that view, or you do share that view.
I have no reason to think that their criticism of Biden and Kamala is motivated to literally score those kinds of points. And the reason I think that is because they praise Biden in ways that what I've seen is the bad.
That's exactly my question. So setting aside the psychological motivation, like whether they're doing it for political, do you think that they're overly bashing Democrats
beyond what they deserve?
Beyond what they deserve, yeah.
I do think that. I think that.
Like, it's crazy that if Avi slowly walks him through this, in Pisco's mind, he does have all of the information for why I don't like these guys and why I feel like they're giving cover to them. Even if he disagrees, you can disagree with somebody's perspective and still accurately state what their perspective is. So, but it seems like, so he does understand.
The Vanguard bashes Democrats more than they deserve. Yes, is the answer to that. My opinion.
Okay, gotcha. Is there a difference between, is there daylight between you and Stephen in terms of like how extreme that is? Is that where the dispute might be? Is like, do you think it's like they're going over a little bit, and he's like, you guys are nuts, like you're just shitting on our party? Or are you closer to each other in that? Or
I think that there probably is a difference of degree here. Although I'm not sure, and I'm going to ramble on. You tell me if any of this is responsive. So, like, for example, there are a lot of really harsh criticisms that Josiah, Hutch, and Econoboy all levied at Democrats currently, in terms of some of the votes, in terms of what they said, in terms of Chuck Schumer, in terms of Hakeem Jeffries, these kinds of people. We have levied pretty harsh criticism at them. Some of them have overlapped with the kinds of criticism, and so has Stephen, to be fair. Like, Stephen has criticized some Democrats for certain votes they took, and for being like cucks on some issues. It's more having to do with like their engagement and their willingness to like accede to cancel culture and kind of wokeism and to just be
like, the issue here isn't I don't care if you criticize the Dems, but like when I criticize the Dems, and I think when Pisco and Josiah and Hutch, and I think even Econoboy, when they criticize the Dems, we're criticizing the Dems because we feel like we fundamentally agree on like what direction we should be pushing in, but the Democrats are not being effective people to carry forward that cause. When the Vanguard criticizes the Dems, they criticize the Dems because they think that they're sold out to the rich capital class corporate interests, and they're only here to further entrench us in capitalist hell as the facade of the two-party system presents to us an illusion of choice that's really only there to placate the masses while the capital class continues to extract value from the proletariat. That's it. Like, that's the difference, right? You understand these are different things, you know? Listen, a very telling moment here. Hasan's chat reacting to your tweet characterizing Hasan's regime. They're not even disagreeing with your assessment. No
at
shit.
least has some vague notion of supporting America, however misguided it is. If he destroys the country, it would be a byproduct of his stupidity and narcissism. With Hasan, it would be ideological by design. He supports foreign terrorist groups, despises U.S. allies, supports historical revisionism to paint U.S. adversaries in a better light, has admitted that he would ban...
Don't tempt me with a good time. Oh, this is so ridiculous. What a fanfic.
...opposing political parties
so stupid
in the United States, and would lock his enemies forever in re-education camps if they didn't agree.
The regime of letting civil engineers do their job
with this political ideology.
Because free healthcare.
As an ML.
When please. Don't bully me or I'll come. God forbid we get intentionality.
Well, he would support the creation.
Are these even scratched liberals or just regular fascists?
Of a single vanguard party that violently enforce all these changes. This is just what we know.
Are you a politician? Okay. I'm not. Don't leave me YouTube videos. I'm not scrolling chats. Fuck it. If you want to leave me logs or screenshots, again, but I'm gonna sit here and scroll chats. Okay.
Be, for lack of a better word, cuck bitches. Let me think. Yeah, like that, right? Like, but there's an overlap of harsh criticism that I think is mutual, that we accept and acknowledge as genuine, legitimate, and within the scope of what is the Democrats deserve, that is shared between me, Stephen, and the Vanguard. I think that is true. But I think if you were to ask Stephen or Connor, actually I don't know about Connor, but certainly Stephen, that he and I would have a difference of scale degree in terms of that criticism, of how much is within the, I don't know, the reasonable amount of criticism.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, like, if I could just put this into like an analog, you know, so for example, like, you might not believe this, but there are certain things I might criticize the Israeli government on. Like, there's certain things, like, it's as hard as that is to believe, but I can spot the difference. You know, not me, but if I spot the difference between someone who's just like, okay, you know, here is someone who, you know, is giving a lot of criticism for Israel, but it's, you know, it's fair. They're not making any like points I wouldn't make, or I wouldn't see an unreasonable person making. And it's also not just like almost all that they're doing. It's like they haven't made their life or their personal identity almost to, you
Israel
know, just score, just to Israel bash. Versus like when I see some accounts, there are some accounts that, you know, they may make criticisms that you would make or I would make or anyone or another normal person or a reasonable person would make, even if I disagree with the criticisms. But if I just scroll through their timeline, it's like that's all it fucking is. Or like it's like 90% or like 80% of it. It's just like nonstop. And analogously, like, you know, if I see someone making criticisms of the Democrats or Dem Party, and it's like all they're fucking doing. It's like, even if they're reasonable criticism, like they're not anything that you wouldn't make or Stephen wouldn't make. But if that sort of
occupies all their time, right?
Yeah, it almost like in a meaningful way became like a substantial portion of their identity almost, where it's like I scroll through their timeline and this is like every other post, bro. Like I know I can figure out if I read your timeline enough just to be like, okay, like you do vote for Dems, like I see that, and you're against Trump, I also see that, but holy shit, I just had to wade through like all of this Dem bashing to get there.
Like, it's crazy that Abby even has to explain this, because this is obviously like what I'm hitting at when I'm talking about like tone, right? Like there are people who are, I don't have to explain this. You either understand or you're never going to understand. Yeah, there are people like you get the vibe, you know what the feeling is. It doesn't matter like necessarily what the words they're saying are. What matters is like, what matters is like what's the effect? Like what are we actually all getting at the end of the day? Because like there was an element of truth to when Pisco was saying like, well, what is your tone with Myron Gaines, right? And my tone actually is like kind of sort of friendly. If you watch our debates, it's actually quite cordial. But like, why is my tone with him quite cordial? Well, my tone with him is cordial because I know my entire community knows where I stand on all these topics, and they are not like in any way, size, shape, or form like 95% neo-Nazis or whatever, or 50% neo-Nazis, or 5% neo-Nazis, right? Now, if a lot of my community started to veer in that direction, I mean, like I've done this multiple times with my community, I will violently course correct on where the opinion I think should be, or who should even be my fan base at that point, you know?
You know, is that the sort of thing that so same questions, is that the sort of thing that Stephen would describe Vanguard as, and would you describe Vanguard as that?
I think that Destiny would say that the criticisms of Trump are couched in a cavalcade of Dem bashing. I think that he would characterize them that way, no question. In terms of me, I think that they are highly critical of mainstream Democrats, but I almost see the kind of the Trump bashing and the jank bashing, for example, which is really just like Republican bashing. And I see the acknowledgments that Democrats are way better, and I kind of view those as all on the same sort of spectrum. You know, like the evidence that of Republican bashing, I kind of see as Democrat bolstering. So I don't kind of view them as separate categories the way that you kind of presented it as. So I don't know if you're understanding me. So like the evidence of Republican bashing, I would be like, oh, that's like good Dem stuff, and I'll weigh that accordingly in the way that I would like a Dem praising.
So this is a bit of a separate issue. So I'm not talking about. So we can address that aside.
Okay.
That's an issue of that's an issue of like, is the Republican bashing genuine good Dem stuff, or is it just a way of underhandedly getting some Dem bashing points in a like more acceptable way? That's a different. That's an issue, but we can discuss that. But that's a little separate from what I'm asking. What I'm asking is more about just raw split. So if I see someone and their timeline is like, we'll just use an extreme example, 95% Dem bashing, and the other 5% is like genuine Republican bashing. And if I were to read everything, I would be able to figure out that they actually do vote Dem and they really do hate Trump and everything like that. Yep. But on a first blush, just going through this, I mean, like, wow, this person, I wouldn't have expected they just hate Democrats. Like they're bashing them all the time, or at least they've made a good portion of their identity that. So that's a little different than the issue of like, oh, like the 5% Republican bashing, whether that's genuine or not. Like it could be genuine, but even if it is genuine, if someone is just spending so much of their efforts to Dem bash, to the point where it looks almost part of their identity, that is a separate issue, and that could be deleterious to the Democratic Party if their influencers are doing that. And so, with respect to that issue, do you think Stephen would be sort of on that side of describing them as with the split? It doesn't have to be 99.
Yeah, I actually don't know what he would like. I assume he would. His instant reflection would be, and this should be honest, would be to say yes to that. I don't know if he has a representative sample of like watching these guys, their content, or their Twitter feed. I don't know if he follows them, so I don't know if it would be an informed decision. But I certainly would think that reflexively, Stephen would make that claim of.
Like, how much of them do I need to see? Like, I saw them on your show, and then Hutch complained about it. Is Hutch also retarded and hasn't seen enough to say anything, even though he had him on your show? How is it that you can't know a single thing about what Hasan Piker believes, but you can sit here and talk about him and supporting him over Trump for president, all these things over and over and over again? Like, how can he make all of these statements, but then like I can't have seen enough about the Vanguard to say, I don't think I side with these guys. Like, I don't think this is a good thing to platform here. Like,
the Vanguard. If you're asking what my position is on that, whether from a pure terms of like space, right? How much does it occupy their time? And you are just asking the space question, right?
Yeah, just the split. Like, yeah, and there's an important reason to it. It's just like if you can tell when someone is just devoting that much time to making, even if they're reasonable criticisms, just making those criticisms over and over again, or just finding new criticisms to make, even if they are somewhat reasonable, and it's just occupying so much of their space. There's something there.
Also, I just love my big shout out to all of my wonderful fans in the my wonderful fans in the Justical Discord server. I love you all very much. Again, I love how I just love how transparent all this is. I will call this out so I don't seem as crazy when I bring it up. I would have swiped right. Pisco has great eyebrows. Like, oh, cute. There, I guess it's just a nice Pisco fan, I guess. That just also happens to be in the Discord server. Who's like a totally normal and chill person. Destiny, don't check the mail tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of... I guess it's such a joke, though, right? I said, Destiny, shouldn't check the mailbox tomorrow because there may or may not be an incendiary device in there. Like, oh, okay. Well, cute. I don't think they'll actually send shit, but I'm just saying if that shit showed up in my Discord server, Queeman and all these other fucking commentary bro loser fucks who are too scared to fight with Kiwi Farmers and these people would all be fucking crying about it. But Nicholas Fat Oreo and all these fucking people who are so unhinged about anything related to my community. But, you know.
It's not, that appears to not just be like this good, and it's possible it could be, but there's usually something there that's ulterior. It's not just they're like genuinely concerned, although a lot of people will say they are the ones who do it. I'm just genuinely concerned with
the Democrats being able to win elections and being...
Yeah, I just want them to get better. I want them to reform. You know, I've seen it all the time, analogously with Israel. Like, you know, I'm just the progressive Zionist who wants Israel to get better and reform, and then like down the line they're like, oh no, sorry, yeah, I went in.
Yeah, but you could acknowledge that there could be someone who's like the biggest Israel supporter could be genuine in their support for Israel as a state, and be like, this is madness, blah blah blah. You know?
Yeah, no, of course, I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is there is a...
They have gone full fucking unhinged even before I get a letter dropped on my doorstep. So, Jesus, how far do we want to go down this rabbit hole? Did you guys see the the guy who posted about that on the Twitter community a couple days ago? Fuck, I'm not gonna be able to find it. Somebody claimed, I used to hear about this stuff more often, but now mostly all of it has been like weeded out. Because like you can't, if you're part of these communities, you generally have to fucking hate. You have to hate me. It's like part of the rule, I guess. Right. Destiny alleges that Justical and Queeman alongside Kiwi Farms are behind the doxing of Nasa Erudite, Josiah, and Hodge, and they were attempting to dox editor arcs. Just to be clear, I don't think Queeman and Justical do this themselves. I think that they just like give a lot of cover to, and then a lot of information inflow, or a lot of information flow between these communities. I don't think they themselves do it. I don't even know if they themselves or their communities do it. I think it's generally, it happens on KF, and then they just amplify it and then give cover to it. But this guy said, so I wasn't in belief of this at first, but after confronting Justical about it, I was pretty sure it was from that community. A couple months ago, I'm a fan of Destiny and the Justical server. Someone in his community sent a letter to my home. I've moved since then to my house saying, I, quote, defend Destiny because I want to rape my wife and my patients. To be fair, I was pretty active in Justical's community for a bit, even after the Pixie stuff happened. To say it was just a random attack wouldn't be totally fair. I have gotten DMs from people who say that like if they see you active in both communities, that people will get unhinged or do like crazy unhinged shit. Who I had another. Oh fuck! What was this person's name? I don't remember what it was. I want to read this person's message entirely. So I'll obfuscate a little bit maybe. My problem is I don't have an off-ramp for hanging out with people. I like being a DGG, but anytime you do this, they'll keep bringing up chatters in DGG nonstop, talking about their personal lives, and even sending letters to one's house because they defended you. I think this guy's referring to the guy here on the Twitter thread. I feel like if I hang out in DGG and stop typing in there, I'll have stalkers on me too, just because of how they slowly go crazy about people when they are gone. It feels like there's some other sane people like me in there, but it's just scary to be honest, and the fun place to type in while digging around at work turned into a Kiwi Farms around us slowly. Maybe you feel like I deserve it. Oh, this guy thinks I hate him. I was like, well, but yeah, there's a lot of like crazy, there's just so much unhinged crazy shit. Fuck. Sorry, I haven't talked about this for like the past few months because again, I try to do the like, don't give cover to, or don't, like if you don't say anything about it, it's not real. But yeah, Jesus Christ. Didn't Jessica want to make a doc to send to everyone that interacts with Destiny? Yes, they were talking about that on Kiwi Farms because they were going to help them on Kiwi Farms make it. They were posting a lot about doing the Reddit for that. Good times.
A certain pattern that's indicative of the former rather than the latter. And one pattern that I've noticed, at least, maybe you disagree with this, one pattern I've noticed is just the raw split. If you just go through someone's timeline and it's like 95% Israel bashing, even if they say it's genuine, just pages and pages and pages, like the bash about, like that's all they talk about almost. And then you have to wade through all of that to get to like the post about, oh, actually, they actually are Zionists. Wow, that's weird. And they actually don't like, they actually, supported your state. And blah, blah. Okay, I didn't know that. That's a sort of indicator that there's some sort of ulterior. It doesn't have to be an ulterior motive. It could be like a psychological thing where they're just feeling righteous indignation or virtue on some level of doing this.
But it'd be that's their beat. So like, okay, so I'll give you an example. So yeah.
Oh shit! Wait, hold on. Apparently apparently they're trying to do this to my Twitter Space mod guy now, Icarus. He just sent me this. Icarus, Bath, and Odashra are docking buddies. Man, it's fucked up. I feel this is over split of Icarus when he was going through his homeless era. All right, spit out of Icarus. Bro, fucking Icarus is here. I'm not going to lie. I still don't even really know who Icarus is. He's like a Twitter decimate or something, right? Seems so low on the total bowl. I'll be honest. I don't know if he means this here, but on Kiwi Farms, usually people will say something like, oh, who even is this guy? And that's usually an indication for somebody who tried to dox them, right? Who are they? Who is this person? I don't know if that's what this guy means here, because again, they don't usually do the doxing in Justicle's Discord server. I don't think I've seen that before, so he might just be asking legitimately, but it's like 2 to 3 people who never liked Icarus beforehand, and then like some others who are just disappointed that he spreads the Destiny lie propaganda. I don't think I've seen dumber, more subservient person in this space than Icarus. These comments are all in the past like hour. Oh, no, wait. This one comes from 4:24 a.m. Never mind. And apparently Jessica was going at him in Twitter earlier. Okay, enough schizo posting.
Major Republican, but my whole thing is I'm the Republican soothsayer, and I'm the one who's trying to make adjustments specifically for the Republican Party. I'll give you an example of this in Israel context, right? There are people who say, for example, the reason we have to focus so much on the Israel-Palestine conflict, and the reason we have to spend so much time on it is because America's involved with Israel in a way they're not with like Sudan, or they're not with like the Rohingya people. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like that there's some reason related to the proximity or areas of interest or area of expertise. So I'll give you another example. Like, I spend most of my time talking about domestic policy as relates to like corruption stuff. I don't spend most of my time like doing socialist theory. I don't spend most of my time even on foreign policy. I don't spend most of my time on social policy. Most of my my content is focused on either hard political analysis or with an nexus to legal stuff, and that's just because it's my interest. And likewise, I hear what you're saying, that there could be some person who's the percentage of time they spend on dem bashing could indicate an ulterior motive, that is to say, well, actually, I don't know, maybe it would be for self-enrichment or for clout or for building this kind of niche to for oneself. But it also could be, that's my area of interest.
They should be exposed as literal gang stalking, and if you don't talk about it, people just assume all the hate is natural. I mean, I am talking about it more, right?
That's where I think I can have the biggest change. That's where I want to move.
It's not being claimed as an entailment. It's being claimed as an it militates to favor one hypothesis over the other. It's not saying the other hypothesis is impossible.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree that it is support for one of those hypotheses, namely and here specifically to speak for total clarity, it would be the dem bashing is for self-enrichment and for social clout, right?
So either or some sort of righteous indignation feeling. There's like this weird thing I noticed. I don't know if you picked this up as well. It almost seems like some people just want the Dems to fail so that they can get the bash in and feel good about themselves that they're getting the bash in. It's like there's this like I told you so righteous indignation feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. I know, and there's a lot of that on the Israel stuff too. It's like they almost want more. Like there's some people who
want more death. You think?
Yeah, they want more Palestinians to die and starve, so they can say, "I told you the GHF wouldn't work. Look at all these massacres. Like I told you Israel's crazy." Like they would rather, regardless of whether they're right about any other stuff. It's like that almost psychological motivation. Like they'll talk about the massacres that Israel or the killings that the IDF has done. Like they'll get on these podcasts and they're almost smiling when they do it. It's like, wait a minute, this is weird.
Yeah, I think there are certain people where that's in their DNA almost, right? And I don't deny that such people could exist, and I don't even deny. I don't hear you deny that there could be mixed motives as well, or lies that people tell oneself. No, I really want to help the Democrats. Oh no, this is really just about Israel. And I guess we're kind of, I don't want to say we're mind reading as to say that it's not a worthwhile inquiry that we're suggesting, but like we are kind of like picking apart what it could be. And I don't deny that one such rationale could be righteous indignation. Yes.
Cloud could be righteous indignation, could be like all this whatever. Yeah. And I'm saying like that. So that's the one. The one thing is the split, and then the other thing is like the other thing is not a point that I really asked. It's something you brought up was whether there's a couched, if their criticism of the Republicans are couched with criticism of Democrats. Like, is there a little element of a little
kick,
a little kick, a little jab to the Democrats every time they give a Republican criticism?
Sure. But I want to be clear. Yes, I hear that. But some people who take a slice of my content, at least for the immediately after the election, a lot of it was like, fuck Trump and look at what the Democrats did, and look what the Democrats did, you know. And so and I think I'm just being honest with you.
Unique to that. We all do this. Yeah, like we all do this. We all do this to things we support to some degree.
Yeah, yeah. But let's just be honest about my engagement with the Vanguard. So the content specifically of the Vanguard that I watch is content that I like of him bashing Cenk for trying to build bridges with like Charlie Kirk, where he's not going to find any friends there, right? Or build bridges with like Steve Bannon and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who basically say, you know, fuck you Muslim, or are literally anti-Semitic in the case I think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, where we think that's like not okay. And so I consume a lot of that content. I consume a lot. I don't consume a lot of Vanguard content in general, but when I consume Vanguard content, a lot of it is Cenk bashing. A lot of it is Trump bashing, and that's the bit I consume. And so the Trump bashing I see, I guess I don't know if I have intuition about whether or not it's being paired with the Dem bashing, such that I can discern that ulterior motive.
But you would at least understand that if you combine those 2 points, like the split point about like just the raw amount of time spent bashing Dems, and if even when you see criticism of the Republicans, it's almost if it's either almost all or like majority has a little Dem kick to it, you would understand why it appears like this person just wants to bash Dems. It's like
I can understand why it could appear that way.
Okay.
Yeah. It may not be that way, but it certainly looks that way.
Sure. And I think the best way to suss that out is to have conversations sometimes with these people to actually figure it out. I guess like, yeah, so I acknowledge there are some separate threads here, and I just want to put them all out in front of the audience. So the one is the tanky thread, which I would agree that tanky bad, right? Marxist-Leninist, as I understand the term Marxist-Leninist, bad.
I don't know. It hasn't even been defined.
Sorry, okay. Last schizo thing. This was the guy who got banned, I guess who they sent the letter to? He just sent me all of his videos with it. Listen, whatever beef with your community I have, I don't believe it was because of you or from like 98% of the people I engage with, but I just decided I'm going to tell you something that happened to me. During my 1-week ban from Jube a while ago, someone sent me something to my house, a letter that was implying that someone from the logistical community found my actual home address, had a bunch of inflammatory statements and whatnot, but I just wanted you to know that I do not believe it was from you or your higher ups or anything like that. I have also, despite what others claim, never given enough information for my docs to be found. The only public information is 2 things. I live in blank and nearby park I can walk to. That's it. Jessica says, send a picture. And then this guy responds, I tossed it immediately. It's straight up a schizo rant, calling me a rapist and saying I have the stance I do so I can keep on raping my partner and my patients. It was typed out and not like a handwritten thing. Jessica says, okay, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but the speed with which it happened seems insane. Like you got a full-blown courier mail from someone in that short a period of time. He says, I mean, if it was local, I wouldn't imagine it would take that long to send a letter within the US. It's less than 5 days. Our USPS is fast as fuck. I'm only telling you this because I don't even believe it was intended to make it seem like this is what the logistical community does or anything like that. That would be actually crazy to endorse or encourage or anything of that sort. But I've told a few others debating on what I should do with it, and I decided I should come to you to talk to you about this. The fact that there are people to this day saying I either support rape and am a rapist in waiting, which is something you said on stream a bit ago, or at least I argue like a rapist in waiting, will eventually encourage this behavior. I don't know if this rape thing has anything to do with arguing about my stuff or not, but okay. He's very big on like trying to define me as being a rapist or whatever. Now I have moved. My address has changed. It was a planned move. I had no fear. It was a planned move. I had no fear for my life or anything like that. This rape rhetoric, it just needs to chill the fuck out. That is the reason I'm reaching out. I got banned for 7 days right now for using a slur in voice chat. Yeah, I did it, but in retaliation, people accusing me of raping my fiance and raping my patients. I'll leave the 7-day ban, but I'm truly hoping something's changed by then. Jessica says, I have no idea about any of that. I just feel like throwing away evidence of someone who is potentially an unhinged stalker is in and of itself unhinged. Please keep anything that comes your way going forward. Yeah, I didn't want to hold on to a letter telling me that I rape my patients or my fiance, but I appreciate you at least reading my messages. Thank you. Jessica says, you understand that is insane, right? And Odashar says, fighting my real docs, sending me a letter saying I rape my partner and my patients, saying I only defend Destiny so that I can rape. Oh, that's why. Remember, if you don't take the unhinged anti-Destiny position, like you are... You will be destroyed in these servers, yeah. Okay, so that's why they're going after him. Okay, makes sense. Also, remember, this guy's first message is like, I'm not saying it's from your community. I don't think anybody in your community did it, or none of the higher ups. I don't think you guys endorsed that. Like, he was even trying to be careful in this, but you have to carry the community line. Saying only defend Destiny so that I can rape, and then claim it's from your community. Like, why mention your shit at all? Even if they're a super big fan doing this, why throw your name in it? Jessica says, I'm telling you that not taking a picture and throwing it out is probably something only a completely insane person would do. He says, why would I want to keep that anywhere? Jessica says, because it would be from a completely unhinged schizophrenic that you should probably start a record of for your own safety. He says, I've moved. People who do this stuff online are mostly cowards. If they were sure they were sending it to my home and wanted to hurt me, then they have either showed up by now or contacted others around me, like my mom or my fiance. I'm way more scared of the violence I see at my job as a nurse than some schizo online. I can sort of see Justicle's point here, like, why wouldn't you say that? But I've actually tossed letters like this before. But although I'm more of a long figure, because like they'll send it from like not PO box addresses, but from like a post office. Like, you have no idea who's sending the letter. You're never gonna find it. And usually people are that unhinged, they're not gonna be retarded enough to like mail it from their fucking home, you know. Justicle says, okay. Otoshara says, like, as much as you hopefully were joking about our healthcare being in danger because I'm a nurse, I'm at a much higher risk of a patient tracking me down, especially the actual psych patients and unhinged family I deal with, threaten me to my face. They know where I work, what I look like, and my first and last name, which is incredibly unique. But to reiterate, I'm like 98% positive that this wasn't someone from your community. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And then after that, this was March 9th, 2025 at 1:54 p.m. 3 hours later, he is permanently banned from Justicle's server. Based. King. An actual king. And then they still, on this particular guy, to this day, go hard. It's crazy Destiny's defending known patient rapist, Otoshara. Very concerning. Based. There was a person I used to engage with a long time ago on social media. I'm not going to say anything in particular about this, but maybe I'll do screenshots in the future of this because I don't want to give away who this is. But like, there's a person I used to interact with a long time ago on social media who has been stalked and harassed in real life because somebody was convinced, I don't know if they were a farmer or somebody from Justicle's server, somebody was convinced that I sent this person a ton of videos of me and Pixie or me and other people, and they found this girl's address and started contacting her work with AI Photoshop nudes of her and me, even though I've never met this person in real life, claiming that they were going to try to get them fired from every job that they're at and then harass them and their family members until they admit and then send them the stuff that I'd supposedly sent her about Pixie and any other person. But I've never sent this person anything like this before, right? But just this is like the level of like insane, unhinged shit. I would show screenshots of this, but I don't want to give away who it is for obvious reasons. But yeah, this the everything around this is like, these people are fucking insane.
Oh, shit, I'm not even like. So,
okay, but I think regardless of whether we have a shirt.
Oh wait, I'm so sorry. Apparently this ban date was a couple weeks later. I thought it was the same day, but it's not the same day. My bad. It wasn't 309. It was 319. My bad. So it was 10 days later. But there you go.
Notion of tanky.
Yeah. Whatever your notion is.
Whatever my notion of tanky is tanky bad. Whatever Steven's notion of tanky is tanky bad. Thank you, Archibald.
Is that relevant to your court case / in court? Nope, because of the way that Pixie and the rest of the people did it. She gave them like just enough stuff to attack me and all of these peripheral communities that she doesn't have to directly interact with, although she does, right? That one leak from Justicle showed that she and him are in direct contact with each other, but I think that they're not going to turn anything over in discovery. I'm fully confident that she's going to lie about her connection with all of these people, and I'm not going to get to see anything there. We'll see what she actually turns over when they finally, when all the rulings come through. But yeah, yeah, it's all part of the great circle of memes.
Whatever, yeah, so that's the thread, is the tanky or not discourse, and whether all communists or all socialists are tankies or should be considered as such, or those who use the label should be considered as such. Then there's the thread of, do these people dembash disproportionate to what they're deserve?
Yeah.
And then what I'm hearing from you is, regardless of whether they deserve it, does the split of the time spent dembashing indicate some ulterior motive?
Ulterior, yes. It indicates some ulterior rather than some genuine concern for the Democratic.
Okay, so apply that and help me make sense of the convo.
And also the split in conjunction with like some sort of like, even when you're bashing the other side, you're bashing your side.
Yeah. Someone says, I'm a democratic socialist, definitely not a tanky. Yeah, so like, here's another thing. So I know this is it seems separate from what we're talking about. I take one.
Someone said that. Ryan Beard. Why is Ryan Beard? How many viewers did Pisco have last night? Like a few hundred? How does he even know that this stream is happening? Okay.
Moment of ultimate bad faith from Steven to be the moment when we're discussing specific.
Wait, what?
I take one moment of ultimate bad faith from Steven to be the moment when we're discussing specifically in the context of a conversation where I agree, it's not everything's well defined, but like whether or not all democratic socialists, all socialists, all communists are Marxist-Leninists. He accuses one of my co-hosts for one of my shows I do, Aaron, of being a Marxist-Leninist, specifically Marxist-Leninist. I ask him for proof to demonstrate that she's a Marxist-Leninist, and he pulls up a clip that says that she's
the fact that he would think that that's me being bad faith for him to demand in the middle of the panel debate for me to instantly produce evidence, like I could just that's just I'm not even going to hedge on that. I'm sorry. That's a fucking ridiculous assertion that I need to be able to produce a video clip on. It's not like we were prepared to discuss that particular subject. The fact that I should be prepared to produce that immediately, that's ridiculous.
The communist and acts as though I wasn't aware that she's a communist, or we're not just here to discuss whether or not like communism entails Stalinism or socialism entails Tankism or anything like that, right? So I can't explain that behavior by anything other than bad faith. I really cannot. Tankism or anything like that, right? I'm not just here to discuss whether or not like communism entails Stalinism or socialism entails Tankism or anything like that, right? So I can't explain that behavior by anything other than bad faith. I really cannot.
Like, does Pisco know where Aaron came from in my community? Like, does he remember? Like, is he not aware that? Like, her whole entry point into my community was a big debate that we had on a college campus with her being like significantly further to the left of me. Biology. Like, this is the whole entry point of our like of our interactions. Like, am I really ultra super bad faith at assuming that? I do think that Erin is. I don't know if she would full on admit it, but I would. Like, if you were to ask me to bet money on it, I'd say over 50% chance. Yeah, she's like in favor of like the revolution. Oh shit! Hold on one second. There was like 250 to 300 live viewers and a bunch of YouTube checkmarks on chat. Oh, gotcha. Also, to be clear, I don't think that Ryan Beard is part of like the secret cabal of people or whatever. He just doesn't come off that way to me, and I've never, ever, ever seen proof of him hanging out in those circles or anything like that.
And that sours me. Like, and if we're all here to have a discussion about whether or not we should be aligned with certain groups of people, whether or not there are good socialists, whether or not there are socialism and liberalism are compatible or not, for him to specifically pull up that clip where Aaron admits she's a communist, act as though he just owned me on a point that wasn't disputed, that is, that Aaron is a communist, that to me is the height of bad faith, and to me indicates that
the point wasn't that she was a communist. Not only was she a communist, she said she was a communist because, and she said that most socialists don't go far enough because they're too much of a pussy to like admit it. Like, I don't know. Also, again, if you're a communist, you say communist, like 99% you're a Marxist-Leninist. Like that, what else? I don't know what else you would be at that point, unless you're like an anarcho, which is, come on. Hold on. Destiny, she does the meme. Wait, what is the meme? At Ryan Beard, the way everyone is assuming violence/force is not already being used to maintain the status quo. LOL, like capitalism is a benign state of affairs, apparently. Okay. Points in that direction. That's not like 100% proof, though, right? But
these different threads that you're presenting, that's not what's going on. I don't think that moment. I think that moment is indicative of an intention here.
Also, Jesus, again, you're asking me to pull this up in the middle of a fucking.
Oh, I agree with that.
What is it? I'm not going to dig through all the yarn shit right now, but.
A couple questions about that. Yeah. So do you think that at that moment when that happened, do you think in Stephen's mind there's like this clear distinction between a communist and a Marxist-Leninist? Well, that's question one. Do you think like in his mind there was like those things are different?
I think that he understands in his mind that they are different. That he might have a position that like in practice it's all bullshit because they all kind of ground out, like, practically they all come down to different things. But given the fact that he professes to have a proficiency in understanding and discerning Marxist-Leninism and how it differs from other traditions of socialism and anarcho-communism, I think it defies all credulity for us to think that
defies all credulity. Oh my goodness.
Stephen isn't at least aware of the quote-unquote official distinction between communism generally, as more broadly defined, versus Marxist-Leninism specifically. I think that defies credulity. And he might say ultimately the distinction is meaninless because the distinction, it just amounts to the same thing, and it's just one is just it leads to another and inexorably. But to pretend that he isn't aware of at least like the on-paper distinction between those two things, to me, defies credulity.
Do you think? Okay, so you think he does know there's a distinction? You suspect that he'll say something along the lines of like, okay, well, it's a distinction without a difference.
Yes.
But you still think he should have either acknowledge that distinction, that because you still didn't get to the it's not at least proof of Marxist-Leninism.
The whole argument is basically, are socialists/communists, are they invariably Marxist-Leninist. And
even is it socialist or communist?
I think it's both. No, it's both because Stephen.
Oh my God, I took a huge gamble here, relying on the good faith and the commitment to the debate from Econo Boy, because I thought about it for a second. I was like, hold on. And I was going to stop and say, Wick, do you think that I think that communists and socialists are the same thing? Because Pisco tried to accuse this of me, but I didn't. I asked Econo Boy. I was like, Econo Boy, do you think that I think that communists and socialists are the exact same thing? And even Econo Boy said, no, I don't think you think that. Like, it's so obvious that that's not. And I like that Pisco is just repeating this right here when every single person in that debate, including his debate partner, disagreed with how he was reading that. Oh, well, maybe Desi just thinks socialists and communists are all the fucking same. I think I said a million times. I think I did say a million times. Econo Boy, I don't think is a hardcore tanky. I don't think he's a super commie. I wouldn't even know if I consider him a socialist, right? I don't think he's like far left or masking or any of that shit. I've said that over and over and over again. I don't know if Pisco is still here confused about like, oh, well, I don't know if he, I think he thinks they're all the same or they're all ground out the same. Or
Stephen himself says he considers socialist and communist, like I guess the same thing yesterday. So I think in Stephen's mind, if he doesn't see a distinction, consider socialist and communist, and even
is it socialist or communist?
I think it's both. No, it's both because Stephen himself says he considers socialist and communist, like I guess the same thing yesterday. So I think,
I'm pretty sure that's the exact opposite. When I asked Econo Boy if he thought I thought they were the exact same thing. Now, I will argue that to get to full socialism or whatever, you're going to end up getting there. But it's obviously it's a lot different for you to naively believe that we could achieve socialism through peaceful means versus being somebody who like overtly says we need a revolution to overthrow the capital class, right?
In Stephen's mind, if he doesn't see a distinction, an analytical distinction, or one worth commenting on between communists and socialists, I take his references to socialism to be references to communism.
You don't think he was being hyperbolic or anything like that, or any of the stuff that he does when he's like,
what's there between a commie and an ML? The reality, bro, is it's hard to really define any of these terms because everybody uses like all of these words in different ways now fucking anyway. Like you can have like I didn't agree with or co-sign Connor's definitions because Connor's defining socialism in a very strict way that nobody really does anymore, and I sometimes I'll do depending on the conversation, it just depends. But the idea that like the workers own the means of production and that the style of the economy you have is basically a command economy. Your means and mode of production are of a certain way. And then a communist society, I think, is supposed to emerge eventually from a socialist society. So you have capitalism, you have feudalism or some bullshit. I don't know. You get kings, you get cities, you get land. Then you get like you evolve into like this liberal capitalistic society. And because of the efficient allocation of capital, you build factories and you build massive cities and you have all these goods and services you're producing. And then the natural tension between the proletariat and the bourgeois, the natural tension between the owner and the worker class will result in a revolution, like what happened in Russia. And then from that revolution, you will move on to guiding the revolution will be like this vanguard party, that will purge all of the capitalists and the disloyal motherfuckers. You move to some socialist mode of production, and in the socialist economy, all of the workers now own things. There is no more owner class. And then eventually you move to the abolition of the state because you don't want the state to own everything. You don't want just state-owned enterprises because now you're just doing capitalism except the state is extracting surplus value instead of the labor. And eventually from socialism you go to communism where now there's no more state, you don't even have money anymore, and you just have a bunch of people who are working voluntarily in these like collective communes, and they're kind of like bartering with each other for goods and services, and basically like that, right? And like there's going to be, if you ask 100 socialists or communists to say what I just said, you're probably going to get like 90 different answers, right? Everybody will have different things in that, but
it's I know he would. but then if he's aware that there are these distinctions or slight distinctions, technical distinctions, or whatever, then for him to act as though it's an own that he thought that I meant, right? That he thought that I was conflating Marxist-Leninism with communism or Marxist-Leninism with some of these other traditions. I think that defies credibility. Like, so do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying like to think that he would think that I am saying, or I have the position that Aaron is not a communist, by which I'm using that equivalently to Marxist-Leninism.
That was actually my next question. Yeah. Is did he actually know what was his impression of what your beliefs were about our beliefs? Like, did he?
I think he knows. I think he knows that I view those separately. And
no, that's different question. He knows you view those separately. But what do you think his view of what you knew Harvey was? Like, do you think that he knew that you already knew she was a communist?
Yes, I do think that because he knows that Aaron wears that on her sleeve. He knows that. Aaron wears that on her sleeve. You have to be like Aaron wears the communist label on her sleeve. She enters almost every interaction. So I truly think, and I'm
and
sure
not like
that he knows
meaning,
that. No, like it's not a meme. No. She goes on all these podcasts and everyone knows that. And like I just reviewed a thing with Hutch, right?
I know that, right? Or what? Oh, because he's saying I know she's a communist, so I know she can't be a Marxist-Leninist because she's a communist, right? Marxist-Leninist is a type of communist,
right? And
right,
and like in the first interaction with Hutch, he's in the tower now. Shout out Hutch, my boy. Hutch is like, so what do you call yourself? And she's like, yeah, I'm a communist. And she says that same line that she always gives. I think most socialists are just scared communists. And so I think that Stephen's aware of that. And so given that Stephen's aware of that,
yeah, was he? Do you think he was instead of providing proof, was he in any way making some sort of like inference or indicator type of argument, like if by the fact that she said like most socialists are just scared to say that they're communists, to try to make the case that, okay, well, there's some distinction here. She's not just a socialist. She's something over and above a socialist. She says she is.
Yeah,
and she clearly is saying that she is something other than that. And she's also saying the reason she's something other than that is because they're kind of pussies.
Yes, but
own more like potentially unpalatable position to others or more.
Correct, but we're not using her semantics and her, like, we're talking about our visions for what we think, right? What him and I understand to be Marxist-Leninism and communist, and especially given the fact that he was downplaying, you know, how much you can read into a label itself for purposes when it benefited him. Like, you can't read into the labeling of AOC, and I hope we do get into it at some point, at AOC and Bernie Sanders. You can't read into those labels for him to then take this what is essentially a label argument and say, like, and it doesn't have to do with the
that's such a naive answer. It's to say that, like, you can't read into the label. I mean, like, I would just say that you wouldn't just take a self-identification. Like, you can't self-identify as a thing and be the thing. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how labels work. Otherwise, words would be meaningless, right? I don't think I said that the label is meaningless. Maybe I did. I could have been imprecise in my language, depending on where we're at. When AOC or Bernie call themselves socialists, I would say they're not socialists. There's a reason why they identify that way sometimes, or they call themselves sock dems, or they call themselves dem socks. It's not meaningless for why they do it. I just don't think it means that they're a socialist, right? But also, I'm not just talking about the way that somebody labels themselves. It wasn't just the fact that she said, I'm a communist. It's the fact that she said, I'm a communist. And I think that a lot of people would be, but they're too scared to admit it. That's like, okay, well, we're adding more content there, right? It's not just a label.
Aaron's description of how they're different and why communists are socialists doesn't have to do with like a policy difference, but basically just a connotation difference, right? That's what she's describing in what's going on here. So no.
That's a read that you could have. I just don't agree with it. So she's saying most people call themselves communists because it's the exact same thing as socialist, but they're too pussy to own just the label, I guess. I mean, it could be a reading of what she's saying, I guess. I feel like I've had enough experience with her arguing on stream and stuff that's just not at all how I would read into that. But again, I didn't have any time to prepare to bring up clips here. He demanded video evidence in the middle of a fucking debate where we weren't going to debate this particular hyper-specific topic.
It doesn't have to do with like a policy difference, but basically just a connotation difference, right? That's what she's describing in what's going on here. So no, I don't think that
I understand you can refute that inference. So right now you're generating a refutation for the inference. That's fine. But what I'm trying to, that's a bit of a separate thing to what I'm trying to get at, which is whether he's making that inference in bad faith or not. So you can refute the inference and he could have still made it in good faith. So so it's possible for him to say, okay, look, it seems like she's not just using a label. She is using a label, but it's more than that. She's giving some qualifiers to the label. She's saying, okay, well, I'm not just saying I'm a communist. I'm saying like I'm a communist, and that's different from socialism in some meaningful way, in the way that it's more.
No, she's saying it's the same way, right? Like she's saying that they are the same. I think it's not her point that it's different. I think her point is that they're the same.
Well, at least in the sense that it's different in the sense that because she's willing to use that label, she's going to take a view where it's like she's going to be more able to own some positions, some that may be seen as nefarious in some way, or maybe seen as unpalatable.
But it wouldn't be on the basis that these ideologies are different.
Now you're going back to refuting the inference.
So I'm not trying to refute the inference. I'm trying to direct. So tell me in which way we're not matching. So,
I'm presenting to you an inference that could be faulty. Like I'm just putting that right now. The inference could be faulty. Mike, what I'm trying to assess now is whether he made the inference in good, it made a fault. Even if we grant it's faulty, he could have made the faulty inference in good faith, or he could have made the faulty inference in bad faith. So you seem to be under the impression like this is the moment where he's bad faith.
Yep.
He's saying that because there's no explanation. This is the moment where it's like I have no idea how anything can explain this other than bad faith.
Yep.
So he's saying that okay, like he showed.
This is kind of funny. Now it's just the socialism subreddit, so maybe it doesn't mean anything. But is AOC a true socialist, or is she just another Bernie Sanders? No, she's less leftist than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders may be guilty of misconstruing social democracy as socialism, but at least he seems truly committed to his ideals and never backing down in the face of opposition. AOC, however, presents herself as a lefty for popular support, but the track record shows that she backed down and wanted compromise anytime leftist policies were opposed by not just Republicans, but even the centrist branch of Democrats. AOC has become more and more liberal the longer she serves in Congress, while Bernie has mostly stayed true to his ideals and got him elected. In my mind, AOC is a progressive liberal and not a socialist. Bernie is not a socialist either, but he's much closer to being one. Remember when I said in the debate, I got so frustrated here, but it's hard, when I was like, if you would have put Hasan Piker and Bernie Sanders in a room, or Hasan Piker and AOC in a room, and you would ask 100 people who've like read theory and know like hardcore what these political terms mean, and say which one is more a socialist, this is 100 people, 100 of 100 say Hasan is easily more central to what it means to be a socialist than AOC or Bernie Sanders. AOC and Bernie Sanders it's that picture I drew earlier. They're like the outer perimeter, maybe, of what you could consider socialism, if we're running with like the very generous definitions that like Econoboy wants to run with.
Showing a clip. The clip is saying that she's a communist. You were already aware of that. It doesn't make her like Marxist Leninist. You think he's aware of that distinction?
Correct.
You think he knows you are aware of that distinction? You think he knows you are aware that she's already a communist?
Correct.
What I'm asking is, could he have been making some inference that she is more likely to fit into that sort of more nefarious box by her qualifiers? Like, and whether that inference is correct or not, whether that inference works or not, is not the question.
Because I view that inference to be, and do tell me if it makes sense. Does the implausibility of the inference reflect on whether or not we think someone who is generally rational would hold it?
In a heated debate, while you guys are screaming at each other at that point?
Like, it's so crazy that in Pisco's mind, I would almost say that bad faith is him accusing me of being bad faith is bad faith. But like, or he's just significantly less able to imagine another state of mind than what I would have previously assumed. The fact that he cannot possibly think that I could be making this inference in good faith, but maybe I'm incorrect, right? That is a statement you can take. I don't know.
I'm not sure, because like, keep in mind, at this point, you already said that there may be personal backdrop here, and you are at the point in the debate where you guys are basically screaming at each other.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess, I don't want it to feel like a dodge, but let me just tell you what I'm waiting. So it's possible that it's a faulty inference, I suppose. If by possible, I mean logically, I think it's logically possible that that's correct. So there is a logical way in which he's, or like one which would not entail a contradiction, right?
Yeah, I'm not just asking if it doesn't entail a contradiction. Let's go to plausible. Do you think it's plausible that if there is all this personal backdrop between you two, and then you get into a debate, it gets heated, you guys are screaming at each other, you clearly both would very much like to have a dunk on each other, it seems like, or at least seems like that, and then you get this clip, and then
When did Pisco pick up this logical lingo? It's from Avi, and I think Ask Yourself. And I bring that up, and I'm sorry, it sounds negatively loaded all the time. I don't think it's necessarily negatively loaded, but I just think sometimes when it gets wheeled out in the middle of a debate, it can be kind of cringe. But yeah, is it logically possible that this thing could happen? It's a very logic-brained thing. Not logic-brained. It's a very philosophy-brained thing, and most people don't use the term that way, right? Like, is it logical that you could have, skipped work yesterday and lied about it? And it's like, logical? Are you saying that in no possible universe is it like theoretically, conceptually possible that this series of events could have unfolded? And it's like, well, okay, nobody really means it that way, right?
Here's the time. The clip doesn't get there, but maybe I can make some inference to get there. Okay. The question is, could he make that inference to try to argue that without just completely being?
I put it at 5%, Avi. I put it at 5%. This is why I'm 95. I'm 95 because I think that the heated nature of the discourse at that point lends to the notion that he would be willing at that moment, given the high stakes of it, and that he's attacking my co-host, and he's saying she's a Marxist-Leninist, and he's putting it all out there. And just like where he was unwilling to grant the notion that communism carries a more negative connotation in the American context than socialism, which you would say is absurd, right? He was at that moment. I actually do want to ask you that question. Don't you think it's absurd? Don't you think it's absurd to think that communism doesn't have a meaningfully more negative connotation than socialism in the American context? That's an absurd position.
I think it does have a. I think communism is seen as a more like taboo, or more like a more negative sort. It's a term that carries. They both carry negative connotations, but I think the communist term carries more negative connotations in the United States
in a meaningful and significant way.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think they both carry meaningfully negative connotations in the United States, at least in many areas. But I think that socialism, in a meaningfully significant way, is less of that, especially in like liberal academic, institutions,
right.
Especially.
So that to me is evidence of a course of conduct during the conversation where even when something
then it's bad faith. I can't just have that opinion. That's bad faith.
I think anybody who is a political observer who is given that situation and says, for example, I am going to bed that there's no meaningful difference. I'm going to die on the hill. There's no meaningful connotative difference between these two terms. Is showing themselves during their course of conduct to be unwilling to die on even the most obvious hill. So I think that course of conduct is evidence in favor of when the tensions are up. Now he feels that he needs to get a W. It might have happened before.
The funny, and this is the same Pisco who was like screaming at Connor after misspeaking on the. Do you think that food is more of a basic necessity than healthcare? And wanted to die on that hill, but okay.
But I think it indicates a state of mind even before.
Sometimes I know that. So sometimes I'll notice this. I don't know if you would agree. Sometimes I notice this with Destiny. After he checks out of a debate, like he'll do this. Like after he's already like given up, like he'll just plant his feet in the sand on something and just like kind of check out.
That's possible. But
I definitely was not the one that checked out of that debate. You can go and look at the facial expressions for the last hour of that one and see who checked out. But okay.
Build the case and tell me what you think. And so the 95% is I think that he's someone who is trying to actually get to a disagreement and see where we disagree wouldn't be like, oh my God, like in the way he is, where he's using really like the term communist, actually he's a commie. And
keep in mind does he really want to get to the meat of the issue? The only reason we're going through a clip series because people are like, you need to show me an exact actual video. Where I go is you need to show me an actual video. Exactly. And it's like, holy fuck, in the middle of the fucking debate, I don't have the video evidence on hand.
again, bringing up the second clip where he brings up she wants private property to be abolished, which he knows. He knows that the abolishment of private property is like a core tenet in socialism and communism, and that doesn't move the point along either. That he is now.
But that's not true. But Pisco doesn't really know that, because there are people who dance around that. Like when, for instance, like when Vosh talks about like market socialism, and there are ways that everything can, like, workers can slowly own everything in the form of like cooperatively owned stuff, or maybe some people can still have their businesses, and you can also have a lot of co-ops in society that are funded. Like it's, I mean, like it kind of is. I would argue that if you're calling yourself, I would argue that for a socialist, you need the abolition of all priority. But like, we define socialist as being very broad at the beginning of this conversation. And even Econo Boy, I don't believe said that. He said ideally it would be all socially owned, but in practice not really. So it's like, what does that even mean? You know, like.
Now just trying to find clips of, and really being fed clips that are the most communist sounding.
Being fed clips. Bro, yeah, I'm in the middle of a debate. I don't have these saved. No shit, I'm being fed clips. I have to ask my chat. As opposed to this guy being fed messages from chat and from fucking like Queeman and Jessica the entire conversation for what to say to me. Like, come on.
Either. That he is now just trying to find clips of, and really being fed clips that are the most communist sounding and the most scary sounding, and trying to make a big show of it. And that reaction, I think, indicates to me that the overwhelming possibility.
Yeah. Do you recall when he listened to that clip, he had this reaction that was like, there was a moment where he listened to the clip and had this reaction, be like, the sort of reaction like he laughed and was like, oh, I got him now.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that? Now, do you remember if that moment was when she said she was a communist, or when she made that further point?
I think it was the first one was the communist, but he doubled down on it for the private property point. But what's your?
No. I'm asking about the reaction here.
Yeah, I think the reaction was with the first communist clip. That was like the major reaction.
No. I mean, not the first, because she said in the first communist clip two things. In the first communist clip, so it happened in the first. I'm asking more specific. When in the first clip did he have that reaction?
Oh, I don't recall that.
Oh my God, this is such an insane read by Abby. Jesus. Listen, I love Abby. Okay, the Israel thing is cringe, but you know what, bro?
Yeah. So I do recall that, and the reaction wasn't when she said he was a communist. His laughing reaction, be like, oh yeah, I've heard enough now. Like, I got it. He actually had a pretty straight face from what I recall when she said she was a communist. The moment where that changed was when she made that further thing about like, oh, because they're pussies. Like they're kind of like the difference. I think really just socialists are just too pussy to admit it or something.
Yeah, but I think
because Abby's pointing out the reason why I had that reaction was because just hearing her say she's a communist, like, again, even in the middle of the debate, I'm not trying to be like the most bad faith motherfucker. I was like, okay, she said she's a communist, whatever. But then when she's like, yeah, because socialists are too pussy to come out. There's like, yeah, okay, there we go, right? That's a really good read by Abby there. Jesus.
That he's aware that that's her. That's what she says all the time. That's like he knows that that's her position.
You don't think? I see. So you don't think that further thing is plausibly like some?
Because I think he's always known that, and so he is play acting as though he's never heard Aaron say that. That's what I take to be bad. Like for us to think that he, given the fact that Aaron comes out of his community, they've had these conversations before.
Just to be perfectly clear. So your view is not just that he already knows that Aaron describes herself as a communist, that she wears the communist hat.
He represents in the conversation, Avi, that he's had private discussions in which Aaron has expounded on.
If I implied that, that's my mistake. I never meant to imply that I've had private conversations with Erin where she's admitted to being thank you, whatever. I'm talking about she's had a ton of conversations on our stream. Like, I'm pretty sure my community, you can probably go back and find threads of like said like, oh, is Erin like a hardcore fucking tanky or whatever? And then like, and we banned the joke about it, but about like, oh, Lycan is becoming a like crazy on Israel Palestine because Erin is so like far left, right? Like this has been a common like rift, or not rift. This has been like a common thread of conversation that's happened in my community for like years.
On her ideas to him, so he cannot claim this mantle of ignorance.
Specifically, like you're saying, he's already aware that she makes this point of the socialists are just like too shy to admit that they're communists or something.
Yes, and the fact that he's saying that he's had private conversations that reveal the fact that she has said that she's at least is indicating in his mind that he has some deeper understanding of Aaron's position. So it's not plausible, I think, that reaction.
And you think that's not, and you think that he doesn't have in his mind that has like any tie into like.
It was him that didn't know she was commie, I thought. I don't think Pisco said that she wasn't commie. He was asking for evidence that she was a Marxist-Leninist, right? There's no way Pisco said she wasn't commie, right?
Her being a Marxist-Leninist in any way.
I think that he thinks that. Sorry, say that one more time.
Do you think that him knowing that from her? Do you think that has any tie-in his mind, be it an inference or otherwise, to her being a Marxist-Leninist?
I also thought I heard you say that you've heard her make the argument in private, but you don't want to leak the convos. Maybe you said prior. Why would we? If I said that, I was hallucinating. I would have to see a clip of that. I either misspoke or I'm hallucinating or I was being so bad faith, my own mind deleted it for myself. I don't know if we've ever had like private conversations about like, I need to know how extremist radical tanky are you? I don't know why I would ever have that conversation with somebody. Destin, you said prior convos and he thinks you said private convos. Oh, okay, maybe. That might be it.
Or do you think he's just using that as some sort of he said he doesn't believe that's a time.
It's the latter, because to the extent that it's overdetermined, because to the extent that he thinks that comment specifically would indicate Marxist-Leninist tendencies, it's already overdetermined because he thinks that all communists are Marxist-Leninists, or sorry, that's at least his position.
Yes,
his public-facing position.
Basically,
these things are meaninless, and so the whole notion that his perception of Aaron as a Marxist-Leninist would turn on the additional comment as opposed to just her general identification as a communist, I think that's not. I hope I'm making sense there.
And you think that position? So right, so you would,
fuck. Somebody should push Pisco. It won't happen in this combo. I don't even know how much Dr. Evie knows about this. Although Dr. Evie is significantly more like online than Pisco is in terms of like this like crazy weird internet debate world shit. I wonder what Evie would think. Somebody should ask Pisco what percentage of people that say they're communists are like Marxist-Leninists versus what else can you be besides an ML or like a like an anarcho-communist. There's probably like. Am I making up musicians like Trotsky communist? Like I'm sure there's like a bunch of weird flavors that I like. If you go to Washington community or something, but like how many people like a Maoist communist or whatever? Like I feel like it's basically MLs. Like that's like I feel like it's like 95% of people. If they say I'm a communist, I'm an actual fucking communist, right? They mean they're Marxist-Leninists. What is Zizek? Zizek is based. Okay, we don't hate Zizek here ever. I don't care how crazy his political opinions are sometimes.
Well. So a couple things. So going back to the move to say there's no meaningful difference. Do you think he's making that move in bad faith? Because the whole thing we're discussing was whether he's being bad faith when he's doing it. So,
yes.
Because if he wasn't bad faith when he's doing that, then he could just be making that clip in good faith.
And the best way to remove all doubt would be to say something like, "Oh yeah, I recognize that this is like not a dunk at all. That we were discussing Marxist-Leninism and whether or not communism entails Marxist-Leninism, whether these distinctions matter. And I recognize that now there's objective evidence that Pisco was aware of this, literally reacted to multiple clips and had these conversations with Aaron that this was silly of me to act this way, or at least I was wrong in thinking that this was any kind of move on any point. But I think there's a 0% chance that he would do that." But I think that in the moment he was pressed, just like when he was pressed on the issue of whether communism has. I
was pressed, by the way. He pressed me to fucking produce video evidence of a position that somebody that I was in a debate about had. Yeah, I was super pressed. I didn't have the fucking video evidence on hand. Holy shit!
A deeper connotative negative, reaction in America, and he was gonna always produce some clip in that moment to make it seem like he won the point. Mm-hmm. And that's my perception of it, and it's a strong perception.
So if he at a point later says like, okay, yes, I don't think he's going to give the concession that the way you framed it. If he does, I think it would be a more of a sort of say, okay, yeah, technically that clip doesn't actually, show that she's a Marxist-Leninist. She could just be like, any other adjacent sort of tanky or whatever. She could just be a communist who like has extreme tendencies.
But he won't do that either, Avi, because his whole thing is these distinctions are meaninless.
But they don't say that too. They don't say follow it up with, but yeah, honestly, none of this really matters. It's all a bunch of bullshit. They're all the same. But like,
I'm an ANCOM. Not enough characters to explain the difference between socialist and communist. She says she's an anarcho-communist. Okay, chief. Yeah.
Discuss, Avi. The whole thing we're there to discuss. I guess we don't know what the whole thing is that we're there to discuss is whether or not
I don't think. Well, that's the biggest issue. See how it is when you get into a debate when you don't clear.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's frustrating, but so can we move to the actual issue of the socialist policies and Bernie and all that stuff? Yeah, because.
I mean, there was one thing I actually did put some work into about and again, it's like sorry to get all importance on definitions and everything. But one thing that actually got it with my field is this question. I have no idea. I forgot how you guys got into this, but is single payer healthcare
socialist policy? Yeah. So this happened.
You guys spent on that? It was like I don't know. Was it like a good?
There was a good amount. So basically, my whole point in doing that, and this is just to give you the chronology there, and then I want to hear your point on it because you do take a view of it, which you did make a tweet about it. Was I was basically saying that their definition they're given of socialist is narrow beyond what people use the term to be. That it doesn't track usage of the term socialist, and certainly not labeling the people as socialist. That's why I brought up Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani. And by the way, for those of you guys in the chat right now, we have clips of Destiny calling Mamdani socialist, clips of him calling AOC socialist, clips of him calling Bernie socialist. So he previously has referred to these people as socialists, and so I guess he could have changed his mind about what it is.
This is the thing where Pisco is either significantly less smart than I thought he was. This is like a really disappointing, negative, below 100 IQ take. But I don't think that's what's happening. Or like a ultra hardcore bad faith read. And I would say this is bad faith. And I think Pisco even did this to me in the debate where he asked me didn't you say that it was with didn't you say all socialists are communists? Have I called these people this before in the past? Yeah, I have. But there's a difference between kind of saying oh yeah, I don't know, the socialist candidates, whatever, versus let's sit down and write an essay. Do you believe that this person is a socialist? No, probably not, right? I've also said I go back and forth all the time on if I call Trump a fascist or not, right? I'm pretty sure probably even the past few months I've gone back and forth is he fascist? Yeah, he wants to be. Or no, I don't think he is because he's too fucking stupid to even be a fascist. The idea that you're gonna if we're gonna sit down and have a very strict debate on these terms or a strict debate on the usage of all these things, then don't go back to me just kind of offhandedly rambling in the middle of the thing yeah, fuck, I don't know, socialist candidate's kind of weird or whatever, supporting these people and be oh look, you believe that they're socialists, you are automatically done. It's that wasn't the central point of what we were discussing there. If you want to talk about about, or rather pulling it back, this partially is like my whole issue also. I think I said that a few times in the debate. This is my whole issue with this term, is that a lot of these are so ill-defined that it's even hard to say, like, what is socialist or what is any of the shit anyway, which is part of my problem with it, because there are people who do use these labels who try to be subversive in movements, and I think it is a problem.
There's some real socialists, but my whole point in that discussion was specifically...
You could be using it in a different sense. Like, you can use words...
It's possible.
Yeah, true. If you were looking for a more formal way to criticize what Pisco's doing here, this would be called taking rather than the holding of a statement that somebody might say. These are the dicta comments. Okay, maybe for legally he can understand that. You wouldn't cite a Supreme Court case for random comments that a Supreme Court justice is writing about. You call that dicta. This isn't part of the holding of the case, you know. But
well, but then if he's recognizing that they could be used in different senses,
you should clear it up. What sense you're using?
Yes. I think it's important to.
That's different. That's different. But the criticism of failure to clear up the senses is different from the criticism of like just changing your view or lying.
Right. But here's the issue, Avi. Like when we did clear up usage, and Econoboy,
you guys cleared up usage.
When Econoboy was at least clear about what he meant, right? What he meant by socialist is this model of from Clement Attlee, this model of this different social tradition that appeared elsewhere. When he cleared up what Econoboy meant, like what Econoboy said, this is what I mean when I use socialism. I'm using it in the sense of Clement Attlee, not in the sense of Mao Zedong. I'm using it in the sense of Clement Attlee. And so when he cleared it up, Stephen's
like, what are we talking about? Like, Pisco earlier argued that usage is how we define terms, which actually I kind of largely agree with. But like this Attlee government, this was like 70 years ago in the UK. Why the fuck are we looking to this as guiding for anything today? Like, nobody talks about any of these terms the same way they did 70 fucking years ago. Democrat and Republican didn't even mean the same thing 70 years ago. Like, what the fuck?
Prescription was still kick fucking Econoboy off the podcast. And so it doesn't seem, therefore, that like clarifying the terminology changed the prescription. And maybe the prescription is consistent.
And like this thing, like to try to go to there, should we kick Econoboy off the podcast? Like he was trying to like make some weird division. Like, no, I think that the solution is Econoboy shouldn't call himself a socialist. Like,
between someone who labels himself, regardless of the ideology behind it, because you just have such a aversion to using it as a label, but whatever. Yeah.
He might wait, but did he see? I don't know what the clarification of that notion of socialism was. I may have not watched that part, but did you think he saw that as the same sense of socialism?
Actually, I might have even said that in the podcast. In the debate. I might have even said I don't think I would even consider Econoboy a socialist. I might have even said that. I don't remember though 100%.
Of that notion of socialism was. I may have not watched that part, but did you think he saw that as the same sense of socialism that he may have used when he described someone like Bernie Sanders?
I think that he would be consistent in his. I think that he would recognize Econoboy's description of socialism as used in those other models in these other countries historically. I think that he would view that in the same vein as AOC uses it, in the same vein that Bernie Sanders uses it, and he would just say, "But that's not real socialism, bro." That would be his response, I think.
That's not real socialism, bro. Good faith summary. I would say that though, probably, or rather, I wouldn't say that's not real socialism. I would say, like, the problem is there are people that identify with this label that are so much more hardcore than you. I think we didn't spend enough time on my analogy on the spot. I thought it was a really good analogy. Imagine you have a group of friends and you guys like to go to a Chinese food restaurant, right? And there are other people and they want to go to a pizza restaurant, right? And let's say that as part of you go to the Chinese food restaurant, you start to pick up some friends and they really like chicken wings, okay? Now, chicken wings are, if you go to a lot of Chinese buffets or whatever, they have chicken wings, right? And they're like, yeah, we love Chinese food, bro. But the only thing they like are chicken wings, okay? But you bring along your chicken wing friends, okay? And you're like, okay, well, they help us beat the pizza voters. We're never going to go to the pizza place because we have our friends here that love chicken wings, so they all vote for the Chinese food place. But let's say that you also know that these guys are like, actually, Chinese food fucking blows horsecock. I don't want to be a fucking cat eater. Okay, so fuck Chinese food. What we really want is B-dubs. And as soon as we have enough wing voters, and we agree with the Chinese food guys that we all like wings, but as soon as we have enough wing voters, we're going to fucking B-dubs because fuck this bullshit, right? Why would I align myself with the wing voters here? They don't like Chinese food. Not only do they not like Chinese food, they fucking hate it. The only part of the Chinese food that they like are the fucking wings. And that's not even like Chinese food. It's just fucking wings, right? And as soon as they have enough voters, they're going to kick us out and we're all going to have to go to fucking B-dubs, right? Like, it's so crazy that you're looking at the outer perimeter issue, like, oh, high minimum wage and single payer or whatever healthcare. And it's like, bro, this is not, like, if you read a book on socialism, if you read any theory whatsoever, it's like, oh, Marx, what does he get into right after the labor theory of value? Page 247, volume 1 of Capital. My desire for a higher minimum wage and how I think that a multi-payer or single-payer healthcare system will usher in, the revolution of the proletariat. Like, give me a break. Like Lenin in fucking the Tsarist Russia was like, let's fight, comrades. After we win, we're gonna have the best fucking welfare redistribution system ever. Like, come on, bro, are we serious? I'm pretty sure even the short fat otaku guy was saying in the part of the Communist Manifesto where they mention like minimum wages, they're like, this is like a subversive thing that capitalists do just to keep the proletariat happy so that they can put off the fucking revolution. Okay, sorry.
I see. So he is using different senses. Like when he's describing Bernie Sanders as a socialist, he doesn't mean like, it would be something like I'm describing, this is not a one-to-one analogy, but like if I describe someone as a pig because they're a sloppy eater versus then I'd say, oh, like this is a pig, a swine. It's like, there's different, or if I describe different, oh, you're a real right winger, and I talk about Ben Shapiro versus Nick Fuentes. I mean, it's not really the same sense of right winger.
I agree. But that's why. But then why? Therefore, why does it say we need to click all socialists out of the party? If what you mean by socialist is the tankies, then yeah, then there's no disagreement, right? But
when I say kick all socialists out of the party and not like flirt with the label, I'm talking about the label. Because I don't think I've said, because he's heard me say over and over again, I praise AOC so much. And I say like Bernie Sanders is fine. And I said I'd support Mamdani, right? Like, how does Pisco reconcile his mind? How is it that Destiny said he would support Mamdani, but then he also said we have to kick him out of the party? Do you think I'm just doing this like a pragmatic, practical reality? It's not like I'm a politician. I don't need to do that.
It seems like he's still...
say when you say kick all socialists, are you talking about
Econo Boys, right?
And about socialists or socialists?
But not really. I don't think I'm saying that. I think I'm saying like I just wish Econo Boy wouldn't identify as a socialist. He doesn't need to.
Fine. Like when you say kick all right wingers, Republican Party, are you talking about Ben Shapiro right winger? Or are you talking about, because you can say all right wingers, and you could still be consistent on that if you don't clear the sense up. Because you could just be talking about the radical sense, and then you.
But if he does say all socialists in the sense of any reasonable definition of socialist, inclinging any of the uses,
that's a different way.
Any definition of socialist, I suppose that's used, right?
Okay, but that's a different.
Okay, then help me out.
Because okay, so for example, if I say we should kick all right wingers out of the Republican Party, and by right wingers I just mean like Nick Fuentes style stuff.
Yeah, then we'd be like, oh great, we agree.
Then someone was, but now someone is like, well, wait a minute, you said all right wingers, but you said Ben Shapiro was a right winger. Now someone is like, well, wait a minute, you said all.
Can you explain the strategy behind appealing to current media for a definition of socialism, but then also appealing to historic texts sometimes? Hopefully that makes sense. For me, I think that the definition of socialism is truly all over the place right now in society. This is my issue, is that socialist can mean fucking anything right now, and it's ill-defined. And the fact that it's ill-defined is allowing some people who have malicious intention to sneak into our coalition and to pretend that they're on the same team, but they're not. They're subversive and they're trying to destroy it. This is the whole Hasan clip and how he serves as part of the radicalization funnel and all that.
All right wingers. But you said Ben Shapiro was a right winger. That could just be an issue of not clearing the sense up. It doesn't mean that someone says all right wingers also mean Ben Shapiro.
Because it just carrying for the same terminology issue. Yeah. So I think I understand what you said. But then help me out here. Because the prescription that Stephen gave applies to anyone using the socialist label.
Oh, he said that regardless of what you mean by it,
yes.
Then anyone.
Yes. Now he adjusted that in the debate to be okay. Anyone who uses a socialist label who's a media figure, but not a politician, and that is so bizarre as to be seemingly crafted for the specific purpose of dodging certain hypotheticals that make.
Like, this is full-on retarded. And I have to just assume it's because Pisco didn't even know what ML was 4 days ago. He doesn't know much about the political landscape and, like, exclusively focused on law and just current affairs in the United States. To say, like, I don't even know what to say. Like in every leftist circle, you would get made fun of, maybe in some retarded... I don't even know where you go. If you walked into a leftist circle, we just saw this subreddit, right? You're like, oh, who's your favorite socialist? My favorite socialists are AOC and Bernie Sanders, right? They would just tell you like outright, like, you're fucking retarded. These are fucking liberals. They're not fucking socialists, you fucking retard. For him to be like, why can't we always talk about AOC and Bernie Sanders, right? One of who's not even supported by the socialists in the United States anymore. And then Bernie, who's on his way out because of his support for Israel and the apartheid state, right? You know, why can't we hang our hat on these elected politicians? Bro, how about we look at who are, like, the fact that I asked for a single example in the media of a leftist who's not constantly shitting on Democrats, and neither of these guys can produce a single example, maybe that's a little bit more important to what we're talking about right now.
Make them look bad. What, only media figures? So your prescription is only excise from these areas of control people who use a socialist label, regardless of...
Also, this isn't even that confusing. Oh, you only want to get rid of people in the media who are against you, but not elected politicians? No! Elected power is good! I want people who are elected to vote for the shit that I want to be voted for! What the fuck?
They mean by socialist and what they mean by the label, but do it only for media figures and not for actual politicians you're voting for. Like, make sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not...
No, but I think I even said in the debate, too, didn't I say I wish that AOC wouldn't label herself as a socialist, because then we wouldn't even be having this conversation? And I think a lot of problems came from Bernie Sanders calling himself a socialist, because now it got way more trendy and popular in a way more radical way than I think Bernie Sanders ever meant it to be.
I'm more... I could speculate, I guess. It's not really the purpose. But, I mean, like, so someone, I guess, could take a view that, like, socialism just has too much baggage of, like, the word Nazi. It's just like, okay...
But then presumably you would apply that to the Democratic politician, wouldn't you? I mean, like, why would it be specific and exclusive to the media figure?
Can say, like, all right, well, you know, if we really need to beat the Republicans and they're using, you know, they don't really mean that they're a Nazi when they describe themselves as a Nazi, and we need to get Trump out, then, you know, just because they're doing something bad by using a label that's inappropriate, but they don't really mean that they espouse Nazi ideology, that could be overlooked for the pragmatic purpose of politics and all that. So one could take that sort of view, where it's like, okay, well, you're doing something inappropriate by using the label. It carries too much baggage, but
I'll still vote for you.
We still need.
I like how Abby didn't watch the fucking debate, and he's like able to put together so obviously what I meant. Now Abby's really good faith, and I love him, but so I'm not trying to take away from Abby. It's very obvious and easy to understand. I think my line of argumentation, and Abby, having not even seen the fucking debate, seems to be able to very clearly and easily understand exactly what I meant and what I was saying. It's
need your vote to get.
But then I would be like, okay, Econoboy, you're doing something inappropriate by using the label, but.
Does he realize that I did say that? That I don't think I'm pretty sure. I wish I had timestamps for all this. I did say I don't think Econoboy is a socialist. Didn't I say this exactly?
He could still be on the show. I don't understand why.
Oh, and then he goes to be on the show. Oh my god! How did this all become over? Who should you guys kick off, live and learn? Oh my god!
What reasonable prescription would?
We don't need you to be on the show because you being on the show doesn't really have the same impact of whether Trump is out or not, or whether the Republicans win. It's that. The point is that it's more consequential if it's a politician.
So because there are higher stakes with politicians who use the label socialist, regardless of what the label they use the label to be.
Right, they're using the label inappropriately, but that can be overlooked for the high stakes.
Okay, but it can't be overlooked in the context of Econoboy.
Low stakes.
Him trying to make this all about Econoboy is okay, Destiny, true or false? I have a child, he's 12 years old, and they have a political club at school called Local Dems, Support Local Dems. And in their club, there is another 11-year-old boy, and that 11-year-old says that he's a socialist. Should they kick him out of the fucking group, Destiny? Should they get it banned from that fucking group? Should they kick out the 11-year-old child from the Support Democrats group? Destiny, should they kick him out? It's bro, I'm not here to fucking talk. What the fuck is wrong with you? What? This is not at all central to what we're talking about. And then he pulled out the Andrew Wilson. I'm just engaged actually in an internal critique. Actually, it's an internal critique. What the fuck? You don't even understand your own position. How the fuck can you critique mine? What the fuck are you talking about? You just learned half this vocabulary yesterday, and you're trying to internally critique my positions. The fuck?
Or just low stakes more broadly. It's if the stakes are much lower, then it's okay, no, we should punish this. It's then it's worth it to punish the users.
Do you think that's what he means? That's what his position is?
You didn't ask me what he meant. You asked me to make sense of it.
Okay. So then you successfully.
You sort of asked me to steelman his position, which I'm doing now. Copy?
So you just steelmanned it. Do you think that that's reasonably his position? Sorry, I won't ask reasonably. Do you think that that's?
I'll tell you what. I think people have loose notions of what. I think at the point in. I think sometimes people have loose notions of what their position actually is, and sometimes it might vaguely track something like that, even if they're not able to articulate it in the moment. I don't know if that's actually his position. If it is his position, I don't think he had it articulated, and I don't think he had it like crystal or clear. Maybe it's not his position at all. But I think people sort of sometimes operate on vague notions, and they're kind of clustering around something. And
the issue is that we're not here to talk about Econoboy. My notion around what should be done with Econoboy, it would be kind of vague. I don't fucking know. If I had a group of friends, or if I was doing a show and one of them was I don't know, I think I'm a socialist. The solution would be, oh, well, you're kicked off immediately. The solution would be, I need to convert you back to being a liberal and not being a fucking socialist. You're part of our friend group, but we discuss politics. Hopefully I can get you to drop the socialist label. It wouldn't be we need to kick you fucking immediately. But the prescription that I would have for Econoboy, who is a relatively small figure on a relatively online show, is not going to be the same for what should we do with people like Hasan Piker, or people who the Vanguard, or people like Brianna Joy Gray, or the old all of these leftist shows and podcasts, Emma Vigeland and the Majority Report, all these shows that constantly and incessantly shit on Dems. My prescription is not going to be the same as what should we do with Econoboy, who 2 weeks ago announced that he's going to identify as socialist. What? That's what my position has to be solidified on? What the fuck?
Until the light bulb hits and they're oh, maybe that's something I can land on that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think something you might, if you want something for the future is maybe, and again, like I said, I'm happy to mod between you two guys so you guys actually can communicate with each other, or at least try to help you guys if you want to elicit that position out of him. But look, the task was for me to make sense out of it, and I at least found one way in which someone can make sense.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that a little bit because I'll have to rewatch the debate and see whether that will make light of the other comments that he made there. So, but I appreciate the effort in trying to make sense of it, and
you asked me.
I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. No, okay, so let's get to the actual. So you messaged me.
Yeah. About So is single payer socialism?
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, it seemed like you were using again, same issue. You seem to have been operating with a different notion of socialism than definitely what that other I forgot his name. There was another person who
Econoboy.
Actually, counterpoints. Actually, straight up outlined the view, or at least the definition.
Oh, counterpoints.
They actually said at some point, and this is a good thing. Okay, they actually did. Now they said some kind of silly things, do you disagree with the definition? That I don't even take that question.
I was trying to push that a little bit. It'll be I don't understand the normative notion of.
I don't think.
By your definition, it's impossible to be socialist and liberal at the same time. Yes. socialists, historically, generally, like socialist governments or regimes or people advocating for social revolutions, are not liberal. You are generally not. You are a liberal, or you could be like a fascist. That's out of the political compass, or you could be like a socialist or a communist or like further left. They're not generally liberals. That's why they use liberal L as an insult. They're insulting liberalism because things like free enterprise are kind of a necessary part, and like multiple political parties and stuff, like liberal parties and capitalist parties, are kind of like a necessary part of liberalism. But yes, I feel like you're asking that question in good faith, and yes, I mean yes. Somebody made this for if this was ever going to come up in the debate or whatever. But yes, like people who are like communists over here, or who are like Christian nationalists, fascists, feudalist monarchists, these are not liberals. They're not. They're outside of what you would consider like a liberal, like neocons or conservative Christians or libertarian might be, depending on what kind of libertarian you're talking about. Republicans, MAGA is like on the outer perimeter of liberal at this point. Or you've got like centrists, or on the left, you've got like Nordic model people, or progressives, or Democrats, or woke scolds or whatever, right? But outside of that, you're not liberal. You're outside. You're in an illiberal zone. Again, scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. That's what they mean when they say that. They do not consider themselves liberal.
I don't even think like you can. I guess you can like have a normative like opposition, but I wouldn't even call that a disagreement. Like
the hardcore ones don't. But like Econo Boy, like Econo Boy thinks you can be socialist and a liberal. Yes, for sure. You're saying that he's retarded. I'm not necessarily saying Econo Boy is retarded. Like I said, if the media environment looked different, if there were 15 popular leftist podcasts that identified as socialists, and like 5 of them were like, we want the vanguard, fuck the Democrats, or whatever, and like 10 of them were like, like we largely agree with the Democrats on most things, whatever, then I would probably feel a lot different. Or if it was even split 50-50, I'd probably feel a lot differently about this. But when every single podcast that identifies as leftist or socialist is incessantly both siding both political parties, they don't both sides both political parties because they think they're necessarily just as bad as each other. The reason why these guys both sides is because they're both liberal parties, and all liberals at the end of the day will bow to fascists. All liberals at the end of the day are only concerned with defending capital interest, right? That's the issue, is they view all of them as being liberals. Fuck, I don't have that Hasan clip anymore. But that was what Hasan meant when he was saying, like these issues are just thrown up as like a smokescreen or whatever. Oh, like this.
Like social policies are literally completely fucking. The social policies are completely irrelevant.
The reason why the social policies are irrelevant is because social policies are things that liberals talk about, right? On the right, we might be against abortion, against gay marriage. On the left, we're for women's rights to choose, and we're for LGBT stuff, right? But those are social policies. That's a debate that liberals have amongst themselves. Democrats and Republicans are liberals, broadly speaking. Now, it's confusing to us because we call Democrats liberals and conservatives Republicans, but liberals broadly are debating these social issues. That's why they're irrelevant. It's a distraction.
It's literally just distractions. Like, if you are actually interested in dialectical thinking, you should know that. You should literally be like, yeah, this social policy shit is just a simple distraction. As capital owners fucking squeeze every ounce of fucking surplus labor value from you.
Like, he wants to criticize this from a dialectical materialism perspective, right? The philosophy of Hegel, right? I think which is what Marx uses to build off of the LVT and all that bullshit. Something, I think half of what I said there might be correct. Okay, don't ask me to find it out. But like this is an illiberal ideology. Communism and socialism are illiberal ideologies, generally speaking. The people that actually hardcore identify as that will tell you that, right? Hasan says that half the time.
We fight left and right when we should be united as workers. The fuck do you mean?
United over here.
But again, this guy's not a fucking socialist nor a communist. He's not a...
Okay. Link this here if you want it. I think I don't want to give credit to the wrong person. Eben made this, I think, but
take definitions to even be propositional, right? And that, but regardless, one thing he did.
Sorry, Marx was the guy who did the dialectic materialism. It just came from Hegel's stuff.
That a lot of people weren't doing was he actually defined a term like. Good, fucking good. Finally, like I takes and to be honest, from what I could tell, it wasn't that crazy of a definition. It's like it was something like
decommodification of private property and something else. Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, something antithetical to private ownership of the means of production, right? And that's not a crazy definition. Like that is sort of close to what standard economists would say. Now they'll put more they'll be more precise about it. They'll say like, okay, it's not just the means of production; it's also the means of distribution. It's also, it's other services as well, and also it's not necessarily. It's like it could be community at large versus public versus a co-op. They'll have, but broadly speaking, it sort of tracks. Okay, means of production are not privatized. Like
when I was asked what I take socialism to be, I said at its broadest, what I understand socialism to be like very broadly is workers owning the means of production, and that is, broad and maybe
also not crazy. It's not a crazy. But you gave that definition then.
I did, yes.
So if you gave that definition, then I'm not. So then I see an issue with this whole. So then
why is that?
But if you're operating, unless you're using a different definition, because then I'm not sure why.
Sorry, let me explain. So what I take to be what my understanding of workers owning the means of production is the fact that it's my notion doesn't mean that I still don't think that like definitions, to the extent there's any norm, like what I take the word social to mean is broader and it should track usage, or it does track usage. People use it in different ways, and so when people,
you can sure. I'm not saying what you've offered is the univocal sense of socialism.
Okay,
you could use it in senses. However, though, if you've offered an operating definition in the context of a debate, and you're going to say something like, okay, well, single payer healthcare is socialist, you probably would want to say, okay, well, I know I gave a different definition of social.
Why didn't Destiny like Connor's definition? I mean, it's okay. We could fight for that. It's just nobody really uses it that way anymore.
As an operating definition,
kind
of. But I'm using a different operating definition now because you understand, like, if you gave that operating definition, you have an issue with that claim.
But here's another issue, right? Because a quote unquote socialist policy doesn't necessarily have to be like coextensive with the broad definition of socialism. So someone could have a different notion of socialist policy.
But then you wouldn't really call it a socialist policy. This is why I didn't like Econoboy calling like minimum wage a socialist policy, right? Like, would I call I don't know if I would call green energy like a capitalist policy. Like, there's nothing inherently capitalist about green energy. Now, a capitalist society could deploy, capital privately towards green energy, sure. So could a communist society. Well, maybe not communist, but like a socialist society could, an authoritarian society could, a fascist society could, a monarchical society could, a feudalist society could. Like, would I call green energy like a capitalist policy? Probably not. It feels kind of weird. So to call things like socialist policies that don't even have anything to do with like the central core tenets of socialism, I don't know, it just feels kind of stupid. No, I don't want to say stupid, but it feels like inappropriate.
Reminds me of a debate that I reviewed with Isaac about.
There's another issue with that. I agree.
Yeah.
There's a problem. There's another issue. So when you invoke something and say, okay, well, this is a socialist policy, you have to dial in what you mean by that at that point, because if you're going to say something is a socialist policy, that's also compatible with it being a capitalist policy.
Oh yeah, okay, good. Avi is hitting on this, right? Now again, it goes into the language usage and everything else, right? Like when we say that this is a table, right? But it's a small table with 4 legs. Actually, it's not even just a small table with 4 legs. It's a small table with 4 legs that has like an upper desk part on it or whatever, right? Like, depending on like who we're talking about and the size and shape and everything, like it could also be like a chair, right? We're starting to hit like high overlap area, right? And we're like, well, this is clearly a table, or this is clearly a chair. And I'm arguing about including a whole bunch of other things that look like this, but they're way more in the table direction, or they're way more in the chair direction, right? Well, now it matters if we call this like a table or a chair, but like you wouldn't just call this just one or the other. And if it was more in one direction than the other, like let's say that these legs were, like 5 feet tall or whatever, right? Well, now this definitely, it's not a chair. Nobody's sitting on a 5 foot tall chair. It's ridiculous, right? But so don't call it a chair when it could be a chair. Don't call it a chair when in chair world, like maybe the most ridiculous chairs look this way. Because if you're going to call that a chair, and then I'm going to ship in 100 more random chairs tomorrow, the vast majority of the chairs are going to look like this. They're going to be way smaller. And if I need tables instead of chairs, I'm going to be fucked, right? So it's just this. It's
saying like, well, this is an atheist position, but it's also a theist position.
That reminds me. Yeah. So can you help me out? So suss out.
Oh, yes, that was a good argument. Yeah, this is an atheist position. It's also a theist, right? When I say like meditation, that's a very Christian thing. It's like, no, it's not. Meditation, that's a very atheist thing. I mean, like, not really. Maybe it's a replacement for prayer if you qualify more, sure, but like, not really.
Because you have a position that single payer is not socialist policy, not capitalist policy.
I don't know if you've gone over this earlier in the stream already, but please don't let people like Econoboy use social democratic parties in Europe as examples for socialism. These are and were after the war staunchly democratic parties and no goals of abolishing party. Oh, dude, I hate calling these bad faith. I really do try to do it in a very limited manner. But like when I don't know if I called this out. If I didn't, I would have. Connor might have called it out, and he was right to do so. When Connor was like, no, I think Connor called it out. When you say that there was a socialist government, because you said socialist regimes in the past have been successful, do you mean that like it was a whole socialist country, or that just like somebody who called themselves a socialist was elected in a liberal society? And then they did this dance where they said, well, it was just a socialist who was elected, but they also, like, if a socialist wins the presidency, you could say it's a socialist government, and that's fair to call it then like a socialist like thing. And it's like, bullshit. What a bait and switch. And I think a Kano boy went on with that one. I was like, no, come on. And I think Wick asked, if you made a socialist president in the United States, would you call the United States socialist? And like, well, we wouldn't call the United States socialist, but we would say they have a socialist government. It's like, oh, come on. That's wacky as fuck, I think. That's super wacky.
That single payer is not socialist policy, not a capitalist policy.
It's neither strictly socialist nor strictly.
But you have the vision that universal healthcare or national health, the NHS in the UK is a socialist policy. Can you explain that?
They have nothing. It's like, it depends on what we're talking about. Like, there's social policy, but socialist, like the workers owning the means of production, like even, I guess, it's such a dumb, but this is also why I hate this term. It's why I hate the word socialist. It's why we fuck all this. We don't need, like, we could describe all of these systems without even using the word socialist, right? The government controls and owns shit. Like, boom. Yeah, I don't need socialist to describe any of that. Like,
the difference is that they own the means of production. The NHS owns the majority of the hospitals.
Okay, but if you had a single payer system where the government owned all health insurance, why wouldn't that be compatible?
Because they're not owning the means. Because just paying for the production doesn't mean you own the means of production.
I see.
If you pay, and you also own the means of production, then that's different. Okay. Then that is within the definition of socialism.
So what you're saying is because insurance cannot be viewed as a quote means of production because it's not producing things.
Not in the same way that a hospital is.
Okay.
Now, again, I just want to reiterate for the 50 millionth time, I think it's totally cool to like go down this road of thinking about things. I think that's totally fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. And I encourage people to investigate and look into political beliefs and ideologies. I think that's totally fine. But how can we have, like, how are we having like Babby's first introduction to socialism and what that means after getting into like a 4-hour screeching match with me, accusing me of being like bad faith and, you know, intentionally misconstruing terms and intentionally getting and it's like, well, if the government had all health insurance, wouldn't that make it socialist? Don't the workers own the means of production? That's like Hasan saying I gave the means of production to my employee because I bought him a computer. And Hasan's definition there is actually more correct than Pisco's.
All right, but then the question,
even if you do it as a sort of means of production, it's not going to be of the same magnitude as owning the hospital system. It's like just
it might not be the same magnitude of owning a hospital, but
not even kissing toes. Like, it's like if you're like what? So two points. So one, you can make the case that it's not really the means of production; it's the funding for the means of production. So you can make a categorical argument.
Okay.
But even if you let the categorical argument slide, there would be a heavy scale argument as well. There would be to say like, okay, well, I guess in some small, like, even if that categorical case fails, like in some small technical sense, maybe it is socialist. If we somehow consider payments a single payer as owning the funding as the means of production, although I guess there would be a whole lot of other issues with that. Anyway, but like even if that's aside, we surely could appreciate the distinction between
a hospital and the payment system for the hospital. I think I could buy. I think so. I think I can buy that. You know, maybe we can categorically treat a hospital in the, I guess, as a more productive or as a productive thing, whereas insurance maybe is not. So I guess two questions on that. So first is, if I had substituted universal health care as socialist policy.
Destiny, I understand not wanting to break bread with socialists, but you have to understand that the right wins elections because of their ability to create a coalition that has one representative. The right has a zero tolerance policy on breaking from the candidate. You are in some ways very correct that the right can have a broader coalition of different beliefs, but the reason why is because there is a hardcore ideological enforcement about who you support. You will not be able to find me a single set of clips where Charlie Kirk is hardcore criticizing president. Look at the fucking coalition around the Epstein shit, bro. You have half the conservative movement right now looking for a 14-year-old outside that they can fuck so that they can show their commitment to the fucking party line, okay? Do not tell me that conservatives have this broad-based ideology where they accept all of this self-criticism, all right? The conservatives are on another level of enforcing this homogeneity when it comes to supporting their candidate. It's not even close.
Would you have an objection in the same degree?
It's what you mean by universal health. Well, when you say universal health care, do you mean a system whichever way?
I think my DoorDash driver just shut up. Listen to me talk about fucking... 1 second. Sorry, hold on. Eat fresh, okay.
Insured, or do you mean
government-owned healthcare systems?
The means of production. Oh no, then if you're saying the government owns the means of production, that is just straightforwardly the standard economic definition of socialism. It's just like the or at least it would fall into that category.
Okay.
The public would be owning the means of production of the healthcare.
Okay, so a major.
That's not true, but that's not necessarily true with single payer.
And it's not true of single payer because insurance is fundamentally different, and the means of payment.
It allows you can have single payer with private ownership of the means of production of the healthcare system.
Correct, and you don't consider the single payer itself to be production.
The means of production, or at least not nearly kissing the toes.
Well, no, I mean, insurance can be a business, and you could have workers that cooperatively own, or workers that own a company that issues insurance. It could theoretically, you could have like a socialist like model that issues insurance from like that's possible.
Degree as a hospital, or a clinic, or a lab, or something. And this, you could view this in a similar way of any other industry. Like for example, if I had a a coal mine, and the government subsidized
like
it,
the voucher system.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, but I still own it. Was still privately owned versus if the government owned it.
Okay, so let's if for example, like, and it wouldn't just be government doing stuff in parallel to. You wouldn't consider any socialism to be like the government introducing a system that has where it's dual private public, right? So for example, like there's public pension systems.
Well, that's a whole different.
Somebody in YouTube chat said, this idea that liberal policies are actually socialism is unfortunately ubiquitous. I thought this was true before watching your stream. So, depending on the conversation, I might grant part of that. The issue is that all of this happens under the framework of liberalism. One of the great things about liberalism, and it's one of the most hated things about liberalism, depending on who you are, is that liberalism is really good about incorporating a whole bunch of different stuff into it and somehow making it all work together. Like you can have fascists like Donald Trump, you can have socialists, I guess, or socialist adjacent people like AOC or Bernie Sanders or Mamdani, and all of these people can exist within the same system and they can advocate for the things that they believe in, all on the same playing field. And that's one of the biggest strengths and awesome things about liberalism. So, for instance, I might be able to say, I don't know how true this is, and I don't grant anything to socialists anymore, but I'll grant this for the sake of this hypothetical. I've heard people say things like, some of the workers' rights that the United States got was because in the USSR, they tried to guarantee rights to some of their workers, and the United States did it as well because they didn't want to fall behind what socialist countries were doing, so they wouldn't look bad on paper or whatever. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard that argument given, and that might be an example of the thing that you're doing because you're pressured by socialists to do so. But it's happening in a liberal framework. The difference is that, let's say there are good things from capitalism, like the ability to join a company and leave a company willingly without having to buy into the company to work there, right? Maybe that's a cool idea that exists under an employment system. Well, under a liberal system, you can incorporate the good socialist ideas if you want, some of them at least, and you can incorporate cool ideas from capitalism, or some of them at least, or most of them if you're at a capitalist system. But if you run a socialist country, you can't incorporate those things. You are far more restricted on which quote unquote cool ideas you can incorporate if you're part of a socialist or like an authoritarian fascist system, as opposed to being part of a liberal system. This is why I don't like saying, wow, look at how cool all these awesome ideas we got from socialism are in our liberal system. Let's become socialists. Because like, well, hold on. Doesn't that mean we're going to lose on all the other stuff that we might not be able to have under a socialist system? Because socialism is not compatible with things like free enterprise or private investment or something like that, That's why even if it is a socialist idea, even if I did grant all of that, that doesn't mean you get any closer to saying we should have a socialist system. Or maybe you get a tiny itty bit little closer.
That's a whole different scenario because like now we can start making cases like, okay, maybe there's gradations because like if the government owns 20% of the hospital,
right,
50%, you can make some like, okay, well, is it this percent socialist now? Like that's a whole different conversation.
Okay,
but I don't think we even need to have that conversation because that's tangential. It's because the conversation we're having now is not even about if it's single payer, it's not even about government ownership of the means of production like a hospital or a clinic or a lab.
But it would be
it's just where the funding is coming from. It's just is the funding being paid? And by the way, single payer doesn't even mean the government has to do it, although the government usually is supposed to do it. If it's
single payer assuming universal government ownership.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess I can specify on that. But okay. But
that's a more minor point. But the point is that it just means that one entity, in this case usually the government, is paying for it. It doesn't mean they own it. But ownership is the part of the definition and standard definition of economic.
I mean, but ownership of health insurance companies are things. They have buildings. People work in them. There's papers that funnel into these buildings.
That would just depend on whether you consider it just the means of healthcare production versus the
health insurance production. Yeah, I guess. So
health insurance, then you can say the health insurance system is socialist, but the healthcare system is not necessarily.
So you wouldn't necessarily have a problem with saying we're socializing the health insurance system.
If you mean the means of production of health insurance is publicly owned.
Yeah, these health insurance products. They're products. There's a lot of.
That's the question that was at hand. The question at hand. People like, is what is the healthcare system socialist or a single payer socialist? When people take that to mean, I don't think they're taking it to mean a very trivial truth, or it's almost a tautology, where it's like, okay, well, single payer, provided that it's the government, yeah, by definition that means that,
socialist health insurance.
Yeah, by definition, yeah, but I think that's not really the
so you didn't think I meant, so you think when I said single payer socialist, you think I meant single payer where there's a private component, or did you think
I think what people take that conversation to mean is the healthcare system socialist broadly? Like, is this a socialist healthcare system? I don't take it
not
to
health insurance system.
Just to be, yeah. I don't take them to be asking the question, hey, is our health insurance specifically socialist in a capitalist healthcare system? I don't think they're asking that. I think the question that just comes to mind is, say, is it a socialist healthcare system?
Well, the question is it a socialist policy? And if the question is it a socialist policy with respect to health insurance, the answer, I think you're saying it's trivially true, but I think the answer is yes, right?
I think people, even a capitalist, could take that view and they wouldn't really care, because they were like, okay, I don't really consider that part of the means of production of healthcare. If you want to have like some kind of view where you're defining health insurance as a product that's produced and
I mean, these are like complicated products, because you're in the industry. These are complicated products that are sold. Yeah.
I get it. But the point being is that broadly, there are capitalists who advocate for single payer.
I agree, and guess what? There are capitalists who argue in favor of national ownership of healthcare.
But I'm saying it's like they're consistent. No, I don't mean like they're an idiot by doing it, or like they're not seeing the inconsistency. Like what they're saying is that I think it's pretty simple what they're saying. They're taking a view that like it would you can take a view that it would improve capitalism.
But you can take that view of healthcare, right? If you socialize healthcare and you produce a NHS-like system in the United States, you could say, oh, this just improves our capital system.
They don't take it to be that, and it's not something that definitionally is in contrary to capitalist philosophy. Like you're not taking a means of production as, again, like with that move about like treating health insurance itself as a
set of complicated products. I mean, like in the coming world, there's a bunch of digital and complicated systems of I don't know why.
So here's what I'm saying. I agree that if, to whatever degree, health insurance or payment itself, or money itself, rather, or funding itself is considered a product.
Cryptocurrencies, Bobby. I mean, this is a new thing.
Okay, listen, I'm not trying to
Does socialism mean firms are owned by their workers, or that the government provides services towards people? And how are these related? It's complicated, and who the fuck cares? Some people would argue that actually state-owned enterprises are not socialist. This is getting like very into the weeds on this, and I don't know who would even what this argument would even be about. But they would say that actually, just because the government owns it, even if the government owns the entire industry, Avi is saying, well, that would make it socialist. Not necessarily. A state-owned enterprise is still owned by a capital owner, the government. The profits of a state-owned enterprise are not necessarily redistributed to the workers of that state-owned enterprise. The profits go to the government. So you've actually got like a form of like state capitalist model, where instead of the workers owning the means of production, you just have a single party, a single entity, a capital owner, but the capital owner just happens to be the state. So there's still exploitation going on there, but the exploitation is happening on behalf of the state instead of a private owner who's not the state. And then I've heard some people even make the argument that even co-ops are a form of exploitation, because you're not just bartering with or trading with people. However, in a co-op, the workers are engaging in the exploitation of their own labor. That a laborer is not collecting the full value of his labor when he buys or sells a product. He's exploiting and extracting some of the surplus value, and he's just pocketing that for himself. This is like way into the.
I'm trying to say it's like most crazy. To whatever degree that funding itself is considered a product. You have to ask an economist how standard that is, but okay. To whatever degree that is, then trivially, if that product is
nationalized,
if it's like a mean, and if you consider that not just a product but a means of production, I don't know if like a funding itself is just like is
categorically not a means of production.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's considered. I don't know enough about economics to know if that would be considered standard like a means of production rather than just funding and some funding mechanism, if that's distinct or not. So I don't know. But so I would say is to whatever degree that is a means of production, if it's publicly owned, then that is socialist. If it is not a means, if it is not a means of production, if it's not considered to be a means of production, rather it's just some funding system.
Then definitionally, can it be socialist or capitalist?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Exactly. All right. Putting aside the issue,
the rest of the healthcare system you would understand
would be capitalistic.
Would be capitalist or socialist, depending on what it could be either.
Right.
Like depends on if the hospitals are publicly owned or privately owned. It depends on whether the clinics are publicly owned or privately.
So addendum there to see if means of production fairly, I don't know, in standard economic terminology would capture things like insurance, things like these other kind of payment schemes, maybe. Okay. All right. So, but putting aside.
So, unless I'm misremembering, this is kind of why I'm saying it's kind of cringe to be so hardcore on these things that you're calling me bad faith when you don't even understand them. I believe, didn't Pisco start this segment out by saying this is just like unequivocal proof that Destiny is bad faith when he won't even admit that single-payer healthcare is socialist, And then now, after having a 15-minute conversation where he realizes, oh, I don't actually know what socialist means at all. Actually, I really don't. Now he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I get what you're saying there. It's kind of crazy to go from he was unequivocally bad faith to, oh, I actually didn't really know enough about this topic to even make that assertion.
Whether or not using that definition of means of production, you would consider single payer to be a socialist policy. You would agree that in terms of usage, common usage, that in this country, single payer would be considered a socialist policy.
So in some circles, yes. Although I will tell you, funny you mention this, because I used to be, that notion I'm criticizing in my tweet. There's a reason that, it's personal, because I used to be one of those people that I'm criticizing. I used to be like, oh, single payer healthcare, that's socialist. And I was this was a long time ago, but I was very quickly corrected. And do you know which group corrected me?
Was it the doctors, or was it?
It was the socialists.
Oh, what did the socialists say?
I got very quickly corrected by socialists, and they said, no, what are you talking about? You don't know what socialism is. Socialism is public ownership of the means of production.
Yeah, but I asked you about common usage.
Yeah, so now that's part of that. That was part of the common usage, but anyway. So to answer your question, I don't have the data on this. However, I will give you my intuition.
Yeah.
My intuition is that, especially in some areas of the United States, particularly in the more red states, they will have this notion that single payer is socialist as this label. If you go to more blue states, and you go to especially more in academic areas where they have a more understanding, they're more sophisticated understanding, that becomes less of a common
Whoa,
usage.
you're shitting on red states, Avi.
I'm just telling you what my impression is of the data.
I'm fucking around. All right, sorry, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, yeah, sure. If that's a shit on red states, I think at least my leaning now is that's what it would be.
Okay.
Because and it's an obvious reason for it. It's just because that's where that criticism resonates with them. They buy into, they bought into single payer being socialist because it worked on them. They hate socialism, and by extension, it's been so single payer has been demonized as being socialist.
But it's kind of like the term entitlements, right? There's this whole push for entitlements, entitlement reform. That hit the zeitgeist, and people say, "What are entitlements? What are entitlement programs?" Well, entitlement programs include Medicare, include Social Security. And yeah, it was tactical done, but it now tracks usage in political circles.
Yeah. So but you're asking me. So I'm not dealing with the justification or I'm invoking the mechanism by which it turned out, not to say it's the right or wrong notion. I'm invoking the mechanism just to explain the difference in common usage in different areas. So to answer your question, I don't
know how many. I feel like I've given enough examples. Okay, but I don't know if I gave a rape one yet. We always have everyone. Imagine if I'm a rapist, and you're like, wait a second, what do you mean by that? It's I think that we should have water and food for everybody. I think we should have a house. I like to travel. I think, and I even have sex with people. I would say I'm a rapist. It's what do you mean by rapist? Well, we have a ton of overlap on things that we agree with. Okay, what about the Vanguard Party, forcible insertion sex? I don't think that you necessarily have to agree with that. To be there might be some that do. But I think we should also appeal to those people. We should appeal to the rapists because we do have a ton in common. And if you look at how rapists have lived their lives, especially when they're not raping, there's a huge overlap between rapists and non-rapists. And it's and then for AOC and Bernie Sanders, what about people that do consent, non-consent? They're kind of like rapists. And it's well, not really. This argument is goofy. All of this is so goofy. If you pull out, this is just so goofy.
There's a mixed common usage.
Can we just build our liberal base? We didn't need the socialists to win in 2020. We didn't need the socialists for Obama both times. We were liberals. Hillary got 3 million more votes without appealing to socialists. We don't need this coalition. We don't need these people who only serve to shit on our party relentlessly and are way more extreme on average than what we would like our beliefs to be.
Explain the difference in common usage in different areas. So to answer your question, I suspect there's a mixed common usage of this. I don't think there's going to be this broad notion that in layman's, if you're talking to, I think if you went into a college campus, I don't think you get that answer nearly as much.
Okay.
If you went into Texas or if you went into Alabama, I think you get that answer nearly all the time.
So let me do the harder case then. I think common usage, common understanding, people would say Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani, and AOC are all socialists.
Yeah, they probably would. Although, and then of course.
True. Imagine if you were on a consent, non-consent podcast and somebody was like, would you consider yourself a consent, non-consent person? And you're like, no, I actually just like rape. And I actually feel more consent, non-consent people would say they just like rape if they weren't such pussies about it.
That's the importance of clearing up notions. They would. If your question, but okay. So before we get to that thing, so just to quickly answer that. So then you would want to clear up your terms. You would want to say, okay, well, on common parlance usage and layman's folk, it seems pretty clear that whatever they mean by socialist, they're using that term for these people. And so if that's not in line with like the standard academic notions, whether you're in any field of economics or any of that, they may not fit that. But if it's some notion that's used with, so whatever it's picking out that people are using that term, it's picking something else out. But again, you want to clear that up, especially if you gave an operating definition of socialism that's not what the average layperson says in the debate.
Fair, although I think jury's out on the on this little insurance trivial point on it, and I admit I'm not well read on socialist literature, but more to come on that. But no, I hear you, and I think there are certainly ways in which I could have.
Just to be clear, like even if it turns out that there are some economists that say like, okay, yes, like there's a way to classify
insurance as means of production
as not just a product but a means of production itself. Even if that's true, the bullet that would be bitten by the capitalist then would be to say, okay, well, this thing, sure, like this thing, or at least the capitalist that endorses that would be like, okay, so this,
socialist policy, I'm okay with this.
I'm okay with socialist policy for this one means of production, and broadly, like every other means of production on the entire healthcare system is capitalist. Like that's the
but that's what I think. I think that's a notion of socialism that's sort of embodied by people like Clement Attlee, like people who from like the labor tradition, and that is like a real tradition with legs.
Sure. So
the labor tradition goes back 70 years to a UK party, bro. Come on.
Again, I don't know the empirics, but if that is a notion that you're putting forward, that really does need to be cleared up.
I think Econoboy was trying to clear that up.
Okay, well, no, I did notice that Econoboy. Okay, so yes, I did notice that Econoboy did also make some attempts to clear notions up as well. So actually, what I will say?
Yeah.
I will say is that the two people that were least trying to clear them were you and Stephen.
I was trying to. First of all, I defined when asked. I take your point, but when asked about a definition for socialism, I did provide one. I thought it was a broad one, and what I was trying to do was, what's that?
But then you went back on it. Then you gave notions of common usage, and then without even specifying that you changed your notion.
No, but first of all,
started to bring up the Communist Manifesto. True.
I don't think that my notion. Again, I'm sticking by my official position is that I don't see anything inconsistent with the definition that I provided of means of production. I haven't been shown that that's inconsistent with.
No, the claim is not that it's inconsistent. Okay. No. The claim is it's a discussion about who was better at trying to clear things up semantically. I'm just saying that you were the worst because you provided a definition and then you were operating with a different one without clearing up that you changed.
No, wait. No, I'm not convinced that. First of all, I'm not convinced that I changed it.
No, not that you changed the definition, but that you were making claims with respect to a different notion without clearing up that it was with a different notion after you provided a different notion.
No, because I think I was explicit, like because I said things like if what you mean by socialism is blah 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 blah, then yes, we agree with you. So I don't know. I have to rewatch the debate. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. So I'll rewatch the debate and maybe we can have an argument about who was most trying to.
I think there was a point where you were defending and you were saying, okay, well, if you asked. Like the average person, they would say this. So by implication, like you were right.
So for example, Destiny said in that like, if you would put people in a room as between Hasan and AOC, who do you think would be more socialist? And then if that's the test, then why wouldn't it be okay as an internal critique of Stephen to be like, well, if you ask the room, do you think most people identify AOC and Bernie as socialist?
That's a different question. People who had studied theory knew what the fuck they were talking about, and you would ask them to identify who's more of a socialist, Hasan or AOC. It would be Hasan. 100 out of 100, easily.
I don't think that entails me.
Right, but yeah, sure. If the context was just like, well, if that is your notion, and you're clearly like, okay, well, I'm operating out of what I said was notion, but if that is your notion, then how do you do that? Then you can run an internal critique. I'd have to rewatch it. I probably won't. But okay, so the point is that like these things need to be made a whole hell of a lot more clear. Like you don't want to have these things done by implication. You don't want to have the audience or more importantly, your interlocutor try to like rely on it. So this charitable, like, okay, well, if he's using this justification, then I should really infer that he's using a different notion, or like just explicitly say like, here's the internal critique on your notion, or here's a different notion that this would fall under. And I know I said this notion, here's this other one. Like,
I agree. I agree that the conversation could have used a lot more clarity. I totally agree that we should be very specific about our usages. But this is what I want from you, Avi. Like, I was trying to get and say like, all right, let's accept your definition of socialism. What's the disagreement? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear what the actual prescription or the substantive disagreement was once we like, all right.
Yeah, I did hear that. That was now to be fair, that was like what, like
an hour? Sure, but like
try like 3 hours in.
An hour and a half. I think he was done at that point. I think it was completely checked out.
But I think I'm not from the beginning.
I was not checked out. I was totally plugged in the entire fucking time. I was not the one who was checked out of the debate.
My point was, we're not going to see, beyond semantics, some major disagreement, except picking at the edges of how I interacted with the Vanguard, that the fact that I have Aaron as a co-host on...
Picking at the edges? We didn't even want to talk about like your show necessarily in particular. It was the entire left-wing media apparatus. But like you wanted to make it about, should we kick off Econoboy?
On a show that we do, I'm not really getting any substantive critique here, and it seems like this is all much ado about nothing. And even with respect to a potential prescription of using the label, it doesn't even seem like there's a coherent argument as to whether, or when I say coherent, I mean fleshed out, I should say. Whether there's a fleshed out argument
as to the label usage. And
the argument is literally the fact that you don't even know what it means and you were arguing about it. He just had to break down. I've had to explain for 20 minutes what would actually make a social healthcare system a socialist policy. And you are here adamantly defending the day before the use of the term socialist. That's the argument. You guys are all using it and defending it and arguing why it should be okay, should be. You don't even know what it is. What the fuck?
You had to right now like jerry rig an explanation, which I agree is like kudos to you. I think you did.
Request, just to be clear, you requested that.
I did request it. I'm not saying you did anything wrong there. But
and on the fly, I did it.
And good on you for doing it. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, and Avi gets his flowers. But I just, to me, one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated with the conversation is it played out in ways that I expected, in that we weren't going to have major substantive disagreements, and they were going to be mostly semantic and mostly posturing and signaling, and not like if anyone comes away like this is what they really disagree about, I don't really know.
All of that might be true. The problem is right now you're left with an underdetermination. The underdetermination is people, and even maybe yourself, even though you may suspect otherwise, are not going to know whether you came out with no non-semantic issues because you didn't clear up the semantics well, or if you don't have any disputes beyond semantic usage. And so that's the ultimate problem here. You may be right. You may be right that there's no disputes beyond the semantics. But the problem is you haven't resolved the underdetermination there because you didn't clear up the semantics.
Probably true, but I have my strong suspicions. And I think I'm right.
I mean, I guess I'll just end on it like that. So if you do engage with him again, if you do engage with him, if I would very, very strongly recommend to do everything, but way more effort into clearing up term usage. If I happen to be available, I'll be happy to assist with that if I can make a mod. If not, then I would just wish you guys would just that's probably the most important thing, because you're never going to know if you have a propositional dispute or not. If you two can't, regardless of whose fault it was or anything like that, you both didn't do it. You both failed to do it. Like, you guys didn't understand each other. At the end of the day, you guys were screaming at each other, past each other. You guys did not. At no point did I feel like, hey, the notion you're using right now, he understands it. The notion he's using right now, you're driving. Like, I'm at no point in that discussion did it click with me like, oh yeah, these people are following each other. Fuck no.
I would agree with Avi there, but Pisco was the one that was leading the entire time on the most unhinged attacks, and you got you can literally watch from the beginning. Like, Pisco comes at the gate at 100%. And within an hour is at 100,000%. It's like, bruh.
But the thing is, if the okay, so this is maybe pricing in some of my priors on kind of the bad faith in the pre-debate stuff, but and his conduct, what I take to be his conduct in the middle of the debate, which you might see differently and people might see differently. It seems like there's an effort to change things I say, to change things Econoboy says. There's other examples of it, right? Econoboy very clearly said on his notion of socialism, it's not incompatible with liberalism. And Stephen essentially had a conversation with Counterpoints and was like, Econoboy said he would get rid of all opposing political parties. Complete lie, complete fabrication, when Econoboy was being completely clear.
Why can't he cite what I said? What I said was, even if somebody says that they aren't going to get rid of all political parties, when you follow it all to its logical end, generally that's what's necessitated. You can't have political parties that are advocating for things that a socialist disagrees with, because the socialist thinks that the only way you can advocate for those things is by necessarily immoral means, right? A lot of socialists, now maybe not Econoboy, but when he says things because I even asked him in the debate, how would you get 100% of the private property owned by the government? And Econoboy was like, well, going from 90 to 100% is easy. And it's like, hold on, how do you get to 90%, right?
Then I understand that there's not an entailed contradiction necessarily between Stephen saying all these different people are socialists in one context.
I don't think he's lying about that. I think he may be wrong, but I don't think he's lying. I think he really does believe that.
You think that he believes that Econoboy? You think he believes that Econoboy wants to, in his ideal society, would ban all other political parties?
He said in his ideal society would be 100% socially owned. This necessitates the banning of capitalist parties, because the only way capital can gain influence is through immoral means, like extracting surplus value from labor and then exploiting the class differences in order to propagate their ideas. Now, Econoboy might not say that outwardly, but I think Econoboy would agree with all the underlying concepts. He just either hasn't pieced them together himself, or he's got some way to escape this that I would probably argue is fantastical and improbable. We might have a conversation on Wik about this, but what? I've explained all of this ad nauseum. To say that I'm just lying about it or bad faith, what?
Yes, and the reason I think that is because on that Twitter thing he answered yes and no, and I think that's all he read. Once he got the yes and no, he just but you're fuck you. He may be wrong, but I think he actually does believe that.
Really? I find that Econoboy laid it out. I'm not...
And actually, you know what? I'll be sympathetic to Pisco here. I think that I actually think in this moment, I think Pisco does think that I'm legitimately being bad faith. But the reason why Pisco thinks I'm being bad faith is because Pisco just doesn't know anything about socialism. And in Pisco's mind, there is absolutely no reason why socialism couldn't be fully compatible with liberalism. So the only way that somebody could say that a socialist is not also in favor of multiple parties and a strong liberal society, it must be bad faith. Like, Pisco's ignorance here, I think, is what's fucking him in his analysis of my interpretation of what Econoboy is saying.
Remembering his argument, but
at least from what I watched, from what I watched in terms of like the back and forth on Twitter and his recollection of that back and forth on Twitter, I think he really knew that. Like, I think he took that Twitter exchange to be like, oh yeah, like I'm pretty open to like banning opposing political parties. That was.
How about this whole notion of us like pussyfooting around with the Vanguard and like not actually pushing?
It's also so annoying because, again, I've done this a million times, bro. I stream so much. Well, maybe not anymore, but like I stream a lot. You can see my views on everything. You can watch me discover stuff and research stuff and write stuff up, and my debate from anything else. Like, what? Like, where is this notion that like, oh, he's bad faith? Like, how? Where am I hiding my beliefs at? Like, come on, like. Like, the worst case scenario would be like I get emotionally dug in on a point and I'm stubborn past where I should concede something. But like, to accuse me of being like secretly bad faith, I mean, bad faith is, I think, necessitates some level of secrecy, right? Like, it's ridiculous.
Opposing political parties. That was.
How about this whole notion of us like pussyfooting around with the Vanguard and like not actually pushing back in any meaningful way, and it's kind of toneless? You really think that this is a genuine criticism coming out of Stephen based on your
like Hutch criticized you for that? So is Hutch also a bad faith fucking loser? Is that true? Are you going to accuse Hutch of being an unhinged, deranged, controlled by the DGG secret police like asshole who's criticizing you guys because he's bad faith? Because Hutch had this exact same criticism of you. That's the only reason I watched all of this.
priors on him? That he's actually concerned about the tone in which we're not like forcefully enough combating the Vanguard? Like, you think that that's a legitimate concern of his, or do you think it has to do more like is there something else going on there? Do you really think that?
Oh my God. Oh, true. Wait, Avi's being bad faith right now because he doesn't want to offend his favorite IDF complimenter.
That's a legitimate concern of his, or do you think it has to do more like is there something else going on there? Do you really think that?
I can speculate. I will just say right off the bat, like this is coming from someone who is not familiar with Vanguard's content. I probably never watched them. This is also coming from someone who I'm not even one of your regular watchers. I engage with you way more than I watch you.
Okay.
So
that hurts me a little bit, but no, I'm totally joking. Get closer.
Yeah. But no, I'm not. I don't mean that as an insult or anything.
Yeah, no, I know.
I enjoy engaging more than I enjoy watching. It's
sure.
Probably me. It's not you.
It's not you.
I do genuinely believe that there is a very genuine concern that Stephen has when people unduly bash the Democrat Party more than it's deserved, and it seems like they're just doing it and they're engaging in something other than politics. And I think that really does cause a genuine sense of enragement. And I do suspect, that there is a component of that where he might, again, this is coming from a very strong place of ignorance because I'm not really in it, but my initial suspicion is he probably sees you hanging out with the people he takes to be that, and he's not seeing you doing it in a way that is like in opposition to them. It's kind of like sort of very friendly. It would be like, to use an extreme example, this is an extreme example. Like, imagine if I like hung out with Nick Fuentes and I was really friendly.
What a wild example! When did that happen? A very wild situation.
I was really about this.
Like, I know he's half joking, but it's like so fucking bad faith that he's like on this fucking podcast, like flirting 8 hours a day with fucking Aaron, pretending that that's the same as like my actual heart. Again, what's the difference? Like, Hutch is in Pisco's chat fighting for his fucking life, okay, against all the fucking tanky filth that are invading his shit. And then meanwhile, like, where is my huge fan base of gripers? Like, give me a fucking break. It's such an unbelievably bad faith comparison to pretend that our association, like, oh, I co-host a fucking show, with Nick Fuentes 8 hours a day. Oh my God, dude.
That was my little.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry for taking your thunder. Sorry.
I was about to say a little ironic since he used to do that. Although to his credit, he did accent. He doesn't do that anymore. He just stopped doing that. But yeah, it's a little ironic since he. Yeah, he's the one doing
but Myron is a raging anti-Semite. I mean, you must see this. Like he is wearing the.
Okay, he's not even joking. He's actually just he's brain broken. He's brain broken. This is Destiny derangement syndrome. That's what's actually going on here. Okay, that's like it must be.
He's making a farce of Jewish culture.
No, I'm not. Again, I'm saying outright that I appreciate the irony.
Yeah.
Of my example. Now that all being said, he might still take a strong view about Democrat bashing, or he might just like.
I know, but then doesn't that put into new light the Hasan stuff? Because much of his critique about Hasan stuff is like Hasan's a raging anti-Semite who would genocide Jews. Like, I think Myron would genocide Jews before Hasan would. I'm dead serious about that.
No shit. Wait. Does he think I would deny that? Well, actually, I don't know. Actually, that would actually be a hard one because both of them really fucking hate Jews. It's hard to say. Actually, I'm not sure. Actually, I think that in a weird way, I think that the race realist people and like the white supremacist people, which Byron is somehow in the crowd of, would probably be less likely. Actually, you know what? I don't think that's true, because I think that Myron's position ultimately, my guess would be, listen, I don't want to support Israel. Fuck the Jews and fuck their control over the United States. Maybe we genocide all the Jews in the U.S. or at least get them the fuck out. And if they want to do shit in Israel, fuck them. They don't deserve our support. That would be Myron's position. Hasan would go further and say we should support the Palestinians in the eradication of all the Jews in the Israeli state and turn it into a one-state solution. I think actually Hasan would go further there. You can actually have him on both the debate, because generally usually the neo-Nazi perspective, as strange as it is not actually the genocide of the Jews. It's the idea that Jews are the ones the Zionist occupied government are the ones controlling the government, and you need to eliminate all that influence and stop supporting Israel. That's their perspective generally, is like an isolationist view, at least with regards to Israel. Hasan, I think, would go a step further. Like, Myron Gaines is not out here ardently supporting the Palestinians. He just fucking hates the U.S. association with Israel.
And I think that
I maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't share that confidence.
Fuck, I have to leave in 2 minutes. Hold on, I'm gonna kill my kick stream and transition in a second. Let me finish watching a little bit more of this.
You could be right, but I have suspicions that it might be the other way around.
So you think Myron Gaines?
Yes.
Myron.
Oh, but Pisco's laughing because Pisco doesn't know any of the underlying political ideologies. Pisco couldn't tell you what's the difference between MAGA and a neo-Nazi, or what's the difference between like a white supremacist versus like a white identitarian/isolationist. What's the difference between like a modern race realist versus like the hardcore prior like the crazy racial like eugenicists. Like Pisco just doesn't know the difference between any of these. Like in his mind, he's like, oh, anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism, and some people are more anti-Semitic than other people. It's like, it's not.
I have suspicions that it might be the other way around.
So you think Myron Gaines? Myron.
Oh, you can say that in a high-pitched voice.
Sorry,
I can say the same thing with Ron Plaker. Like really, Again, I don't know. I don't have a strong leaning, but would it surprise me?
I don't think I'd bet a lot of money on it, but I would assume that, like, I don't know. I wouldn't say, you know what? No, I shouldn't even let Avi let me head share. And I think if I talked to Avi, I think Avi would agree. I think Hasan would be significantly more likely than Myron to engage in any kind of like foreign genocidal action against Jewish people.
Hasan would genocide Jews before Myron? It wouldn't surprise me if it. But look, regardless, the point I'm trying to illustrate is just the sense of anger that someone might feel if they were to see something analogous like that. And whether he's being consistent or not is not really the sort of question I'm answering. It's just conveying that sort of. I'm just answering your question of what my suspicion is what's going on. And my answer is, I suspect that's the sort of feeling he gets when he sees you in friendly context hanging out with those sorts of people.
But then I would also distinguish someone like Crystal Ball.
But I also, just to answer your second point, because your second part of your question was, is there something deeper? I suspect there probably is. I suspect that it's more than that.
Oh my God.
There probably is some personal thing going on with there, or there may be. I suspect I could be wrong.
Actually, I don't even fault Avi for thinking this, because given all the stuff that you've heard, I actually could understand why Avi might think this. But again, like, I've covered so much of Pisco and Josiah and Hutch and all these other guys, even people who I'm like, I don't know if I would ever associate with these guys again or whatever. I've covered so much of them in an incredibly favorable manner, where I've praised Pisco. I offered $10,000 to set Pisco up to debate that other fucking loser, and I praised him on all of his Tim Pool appearances. And I think that like most of the political commentaries got, like, I generally have good things to say about all these people. Like, it's very rare that I'm even disagreeing with them hardcore, let alone like hardcore shitting on them. So the idea that this like massively just like came out of nowhere and now I fucking hate Pisco and I'm all bad faith oriented, like, because it's like, look historically, like, well, if we were to figure out what is motivating, Destiny to have these positions against Pisco, well, I don't know. Pisco had an unhinged take about the TSA thing. I still stand by the fact that it's unhinged. And the fact that he did like 10 days of debating this and then abandoned the point in 4 minutes against me, I think I'm justified in that, okay? The fact that he had the crazy TSA take, the fact that he did the weird obsession over like Ethan Klein's lawsuit stuff, I thought that was kind of weird. And then just this recent thing and being like, oh, I don't know if Hasan is like a Marxist-Leninist, and I think I would definitely vote for Hasan over Trump. I don't think it'd be that bad for the United States. It's like, I like all these things. Like, this is more probably like, there's good reasons with substance for why I might disagree with you on things and then debate you. Why would we just assume it's personal? Maybe because it is for you?
There might be some sort of personal backstory here that you two just need to work out on the personal level. I don't know. That might be fueling this, even though if it's not the topic. So so to answer your question, my again, totally speculation is that it's some combination of both.
Okay. But would you, in your mind, like,
let's say I just want to get to the phone call real quick.
Your impression of me. Now I want you to, this is the new Dr. Avi. This is, therapist Avi or whatever. I'm sitting on your couch and I'm like, and you've listened to me in all my political context. I just want right by the world. I just want people to get, I just want the Democrats to win. And
I believe you do.
And so when I go on like
Crystal Ball show and I hear her bash Trump, it brings me great glee. When I see her go on talk shit about Trump on Piers Morgan, it brings me great joy, and I want to see more of it. And I want to go on these different platforms and say, hey, this is like, we need to all gather together for this one common thing. And maybe you disagree that that it's the right strategy or approach. Maybe you think that Crystal Ball and Coughlin are tankies. I don't agree, and I don't. But my usage of the term tanky, and I think what the standard economic definition of tanky, I think that would factor in. But why not? If you're being good faith, I don't think there's a version of this where you're like, Pisco is going to these shows because ultimately he's.
Added almost 0% important to like what you guys even do or don't disagree on, and then also
True.
Like that's.
Well, I'll ask you. Did you enjoy it?
No.
You hated it.
It was like it led me to make tweets and everything. Like,
Oh, okay.
Fuck, did I fuck my stream up? Fuck, I did fuck my shit up. God damn it. I'm always... I fucked my shit up. I don't even know if that'll go back to being normal. Fuck. Okay, cake.com/destiny. I'll check this out later. Cake.com/destiny. I'm going over to there. I'll be down there in like 2 minutes.